Staring out at the crumbling cityscape, our MC realizes the unthinkable humanity had actually won. It was over. The 6 demon gods bent on erasing the world from existence had all been vanquished. With their defeat, even the ultimate boss, the demon god of the Sea of Annihilation, had finally been snuffed out. The catch: most of the planet was now submerged beneath that godforsaken sea of oblivion. Spitting a curse at his own rotten luck, the kid knows humanity is on its last legs, teetering on the brink of total extinction. This victory felt like ash in his mouth. Every single hero was gone, and the colossal tower that anchored Earth itself had been shattered. All the while, the waves of that chaotic purple ocean crashed relentlessly against the ruins, non-stop. Seeing that the vile water wasn't receding, the blacksmith scoffs that the sea is just throwing a temper tantrum all on its own. Out of the blue, a smug dude named Mad Dog materializes, sneering that the kid must think he's some kind of messiah. Immediately, Rabid Dog claps back, branding the other a coward for faking an injury, but Cold Dog instantly dives into the beef, accusing them both of being nothing but leeches throughout the entire war. Fed up, our MC roars that if it wasn't for the weapons he personally forged, those morons would have been vaporized ages ago. Hearing this, the 3 madmen become absolutely livid at the blacksmith's sheer nerve. So without an ounce of fear, the young man screams for them to shut up and dares them to a final showdown. Known as the 3 dogs, these guys never gave a damn about humanity or demons to begin with. Their one and only creed was to act on raw impulse and their own twisted whims. These psychos were complete degenerates who only ever looked out for themselves. But the sickest joke of all, they were the only ones to survive the apocalypse in one piece. For a fleeting moment, the boy reflects that if they had just joined the fight sooner, the entire outcome could have been different. At that exact instant, the 3 turn away, asking if there's even anyone left alive out there to save. But the red-haired one confesses he's completely spent his internal organs a scrambled mess. Right behind him, the other 2 admit they're just as wrecked and bleeding out. Exhaling a heavy sigh, our MC just mutters that they should have pitched in from the very beginning. Stranded and utterly alone in that bizarre hellscape, he curses the dogs for their terminal selfishness. Suddenly, a crushing silence descends upon the shattered world. With the last dregs of strength abandoning his body, the kid finally crumples to the cold ground, accepting his end. He whispers that nothing in his life was ever easy, right down to his very last second. But fueled by a final spark of defiance, the blacksmith raises his hammer high into the air. He thinks back to his workshop, complaining that people never even bothered to properly maintain the weapons he poured his soul into making. Looking at the swords jutting from the ground like tombstones, he declares that they will serve as a monument for everyone. A moment later, a look of pure resolve hardens the boy's bloodied face. With the monstrous waves closing in fast, he knows his time has run out. Then, activating his unique skill, the MC announces that this will be the final use of his power. As he clenches his fist, a torrent of blue energy overflows from his body. Instantly, a system window materializes before him, confirming the extraction of a bond from the target himself. Shining with an intense light, a magic stone begins to form in his palm. Now gripping the crystal tightly, the blacksmith reveals his special ability, the power to create stones forged from powerful bonds. It's all thanks to a unique class that extracts a person's potential and crystallizes it into the form of ore. But by turning this power on himself, the resulting stone is completely transparent, proving he has absolutely nothing left to give. Enraged by the ore's lack of any color, the young man decides to pour all of his lingering regrets into it instead. Without a moment's hesitation, he slams the hammer down with every ounce of fury left in his soul. He pounds on the metal relentlessly, the sound of his hammering clashing with the terrifying roar of the Sea of Annihilation. And yet, that frantic rhythm of the forge was the only thing that could grant the boy's chaotic mind a moment of peace. What follows is a colossal pillar of light exploding into the sky, signaling that something absolutely insane was being created. Gazing upon the result of his final masterpiece, our MC sees only a plain, seemingly useless dagger. Devastated by the pathetic outcome, he resigns himself to being swallowed by the impending waves. But in a final rebellious act, the kid decides he's going to go out on his own damn terms. Leaking blood from his wounds, he finally tips backward, plunging straight into the watery abyss, with a maniacal grin plastered on his face. The blacksmith lets out a laugh, mocking himself for hammering away until the very last second. Sinking deeper and deeper into the cursed waters, his body grows numb. In this bizarre moment of tranquility, he understands that the sound he always heard in his head was the Sea of Demise itself. Thinking of the past, the boy despairs, wishing he'd figured things out sooner or convinced those damn dogs to join the fight. But then, his golden eye snaps open as reality hits him like a freight train. In that instant, a series of holographic panels flash into existence before his eyes, projecting the schematics for the ultimate weapon. As he holds up the dagger, he personally crafted the system interface glows, confirming the return to origin skill has just gone live. But in a flash, the entire blue display violently shatters, and a chilling notification declares that his image skill has been permanently wiped. With a violent gasp, the kid jolts awake, his heart hammering in his chest. He's alive, and somewhere in the chaos someone is screaming his name. Completely disoriented, he's face to face with a furious instructor who's screaming bloody murder about some kind of admissions test. Glancing around the room, our hero realizes he's standing in a workshop straight out of the history books 31 years in the past. He's convinced he's officially snapped. An image of that holographic display flashes through his mind, the last thing he saw before everything went dark. He desperately tries to piece together what the hell is happening. Stunned by this insane twist of fate, the blacksmith figures it out that seemingly useless little stone triggered a complete time regression. As his mind is racing, the instructor keeps ripping into him, threatening to get the kid kicked out of the program for good. Totally ignoring the raging old dude, our guy wraps his hand around the handle of his hammer, the sheer weight of it grounding him in this new reality. Frozen in place, he can't help but wonder, is a second trip through time actually enough to stop the world from ending? He instantly shoves that doubt aside. Spiraling into negativity right now would be completely useless. Locked in on the mission, our MC knows he has to seize this second chance and absolutely refuse to let go. A confident smirk spreading across his face, the young man makes a solemn vow to himself this time. Nobody dies under his protection. And his first objective crystallizes in his mind. He needs to absolutely crush this academy entrance exam. And to cap it all off, his plan includes tracking down those 3 lazy bums as soon as humanly possible. He slams the hammer down onto the anvil, and a massive burst of light floods the entire workshop, making everyone jump out of their skin. From across the room, a seasoned veteran with an eye patch is absolutely floored by the raw power behind that swing. Mesmerized by his form, the old-timer sees it instantly. Every single hammer strike is utterly perfect. Meanwhile, our prodigy blacksmith keeps molding the incandescent metal with total mastery, leaving the entire room completely silent. Our hero is making one thing crystal clear: he didn't come back in time to mess around. Stunned by the blade's brilliant sheen, the assistant can only wonder what ridiculous level of polish he's looking at. Barely believing his own eyes, the guy has to ask if the kid actually forged that thing all by himself. Deeply impressed, the veteran professor remarks that they're looking at one hell of a candidate this year. After one more savage blow from the hammer, the old-timer is certain if the kid turns in that weapon right now, he'll pass without question. All of a sudden, a sharp cracking sound rips through the workshop as shards of metal go flying, leaving the 2 examiners completely stunned. Letting out a little chuckle, our hero admits he's still got a lot to learn, and that he would never submit such a piece of garbage. By smashing his own creation in front of the entire room, the blacksmith makes it clear he refuses to let a mediocre weapon even exist. Absolutely livid at his audacity, the assistant explodes, calling the boy an arrogant brat and screaming about whether he thinks forging is just some game. Remaining perfectly composed, the young man looks the examiner directly in the eyes and states that he wants to restart the entire test from square one. His patience completely shot, the aide starts to berate him again, basically telling the candidate to just shut his trap. Cutting the guy's tantrum short, our MC just points to the supply table and tells him to fetch the remaining materials and to be quick about it. Laying down the law, the kid asks if that's going to be an issue or if he's going to have to grab the supplies himself. Completely intimidated by the kid's alpha energy, the assistant scrambles away like a fool to go retrieve the ores. Taking in the whole scene, the professor calmly warns him that there are only 40 minutes remaining on the clock. Without even flinching, the young man confirms that he is fully aware of how little time he has left. Intrigued by his confidence, the old-timer asks if he still thinks destroying the sword was the correct move. His gaze locked on the shattered fragments on the floor, the blacksmith reiterates that he would never ever submit a piece of junk like that. Entertained by the boy's sheer guts, the examiner simply tells him to give it his best shot. With a glint of pure determination in his eyes, the boy is already formulating a brand new strategy. Sweat pouring down his face in front of the furnace, he's painfully aware that his current body is weak. He has no mana, no real strength, and 0 time for a flawless forge. Stuck in a make-or-break situation, our hero decides he has to take an unconventional and extremely risky approach. He starts chucking stones directly into the raging furnace, leaving the assistant utterly bewildered by this unheard-of technique. Suddenly panicking, the aide realizes the kid is channeling mana directly into the ignition stones and screams that the entire forge is about to blow up. Completely ignoring the panicked screams, the boy tells the coward to shut his mouth and enjoy the show. By fusing 5 different types of ignition stones. Since this technique demands ridiculous control, it barely sips any mana, and is the perfect workaround for his fragile body. When the workshop doesn't immediately explode, the crowd starts whispering, and the assistant suddenly clocks an absolutely insane detail. Shocked by the chemical reaction, he shouts that the metal ingot has completely transformed its color. The professor, sharp as a tack, instantly realizes the kid altered the metal's properties. By using the stone's resonance, the old-timer's mental math confirms this method is ridiculously fast. But a 30-minute deadline is still cutting it way too close. Flashing back to the sword that shattered the examiner can't help but wonder if this kid is hiding another ace up his sleeve. Hammer pounding, our MC races the clock while the professor is convinced he's not going to make it. Pushing himself to the limit, the boy is drenched in a cold sweat as sparks erupt from the anvil like fireworks. Then suddenly his mana bottoms out. His thermal protection fails and he curses his own body, making a mental note that he desperately needs to train after this is over. Shoving the pain aside, the blacksmith grinds his teeth, refusing to back down in the final stretch. He knows the risk, so he accelerates his strikes, telling himself he can't waste a single second by pushing beyond his muscular limits. Our MC brings the hammer down with brutal force, completely ignoring his own exhaustion. There are only 10 minutes left in the exam, and the extreme fatigue from the insane forging session is already carved onto the young man's face. Finally, with the gleaming sword in hand, he announces he's done, and the system immediately pings to life, confirming the 5-color flame blade is complete. Right away, a holographic window reveals that the weapon has been classified as high grade. An absolute shockwave hits the room as everyone stares at the brilliant work of art. A heavy silence falls over the workshop. No one can believe what they just witnessed. To shatter the thick tension, our boy calmly tells the examiners to pull up the sword's detailed description in the system. After one look at the completely absurd stats, the assistant lets out a piercing scream, yelling that the kid didn't just pass, he absolutely crushed it. After catching a smack to the head for freaking out, the guy stammers an apology and tries to get a grip. The scene shifts. We're now inside the luxurious office of Professor Kim In-cheol. Face to face with the professor, the boy is hit with a sarcastic question about whether this sword is even worthy of being submitted. Without dropping his guard for a second, the blacksmith shoots back, a curt reply that for now, that blade will have to do. The old-timer immediately notices that the candidate still looks completely dissatisfied with his own masterpiece. Cutting straight to the chase, the veteran lays his cards on the table, telling the kid this academy is beneath him and that he should give up his spot. He explains that while Babel has a massive reputation, its forging department has been seriously lagging for a while. Clearly annoyed, the young man scowls and says that he's already fully aware of the department's decline. In his visions of the disastrous future, our MC remembers that this exact department will be completely shut down in just 8 years. Thinking through his options, he knows that the place destined to become the world's greatest blacksmithing academy is actually Vulcan. But suddenly, the boy's gaze sharpens and he cuts the professor off flat out, contradicting him. He says the best won't be Vulcan. With pure, unshakable pride, the kid declares that the greatest of all will be Babel. For one simple reason, he's going to be there. In a state of total shock, the professor listens as the blacksmith repeats that the old-timer is completely mistaken about the academy's future. Pointing a thumb at his own chest, he states again that Babel will dominate the entire scene, all thanks to him. To test this kid's unbelievable nerve, the professor says he'll have to become the #1 student in the entire college. And with a smirk, the boy guarantees it's already a done deal. The old-timer then asks if the kid even knows how Babel picks its top freshmen. Acting like he wrote the rulebook, our MC breaks down the entire bureaucratic process of the special exam that filters out everyone but the elite of each department. He lays out how the academy is split into 3 main colleges. To spice things up, they've got the combat students, the support students, and the production folks, which is where our blacksmith lands. Within each of those colleges, there are dozens of different departments, creating a massive tangled web of intense competition. To put it simply, the #1 is the absolute monster who bodies everyone else, and is hailed as the academy's undisputed genius. The old-timer's tone gets serious, and he looks the boy dead in the eye, saying, he's now speaking as a veteran blacksmith, not a professor. Like a bucket of ice water, he insists that even if he conquers everyone here, true success is waiting for him at Vulcan. In the end, the veteran promises that this is the safest path for the boy's future. A friendly smile touches our MC's lips as he realizes the professor genuinely cares more about his students than his own position. Then his face hardens again. The kid replies that for someone on his level, the environment is totally irrelevant, oozing with confidence. The kid states in no uncertain terms that the moment he enrolls Babel will become #1. The professor just smirks, finally understanding the sheer audacity of this kid, and quips that luck just seems to follow him around. Clasping the old blacksmith's hand, our MC admits it's not just blind confidence, but he's not gonna lie, he digs the reputation. Beaming at the deal, the examiner finalizes their pact, declaring the kid is officially his problem now. With that, a solid handshake cements the bond between master and apprentice. Instantly, a system notification flashes directly in our MC's vision, announcing the formation of a level 1 connection with Professor Kim. Not wasting a single second, the boy triggers his secret ability, Bond Extraction. He targets his own mentor. Drawing on that newly formed link, a luminous chunk of ore materializes right in his palm. Later, back in the privacy of his room, the young blacksmith inspects the shimmering crystal. Rolling the small stone between his fingers, he figures the quality is fire, but gripes that the thing is ridiculously tiny. This unique power of his, he knows, can turn personal connections into mythical ores, the kind you can't find anywhere in the world. But here's the catch, the bond is only level 1, meaning this little pebble is basically useless for any serious crafting. Pulling up his own stats, the kid sees his attributes are pathetically low, especially when stacked against Babel's elite upperclassmen. A wave of frustration hits him. He's weak as hell, he gets it. But then he remembers traveling back in time was a total W, so our MC decides there's no need to sweat it. He can just chill for a bit. After all, he's got all the time in the world to absolutely wreck the demonic legion. A dark memory surfaces. A flashback of those vile creatures that didn't just consume humanity but devoured entire worlds. The architects of all that suffering, the 6 demon gods, pushed existence to the brink of annihilation in his previous timeline. To even stand a chance against monsters like that, he needs a new game plan, recover legendary weapons, and forgotten skills all locked away in his memory. Confident in his strategy, he mentally checks off the first box. Infiltrating the academy is a done deal. Now, for the next move, he starts mapping out his options. But just then, a system notification pings, shattering his concentration. Completely out of the blue, the alert stuns him. The blacksmith watches as his bond levels up all by itself, unlocking a brand new skill. Recording. Fast forward 1 week. The grand, imposing campus of Babel Academy rises before him. A long way from home, our MC scratches his head, pretty sure he's taken a wrong turn somewhere. Unceremoniously, he finally locates forging room number 3. Peeking through the cracked open door, the young man offers a casual "Good morning" to whoever's inside. He's immediately met with the sight of 2 dudes in suits, and the air is thick with tension. A smug, blonde-haired man lounging at a table sneers that their applicant seems a little too casual, his patience clearly worn thin. The guy introduces himself as Vice Principal Michael Barmouth before tearing into our MC for keeping them all waiting. Trying to play peacemaker, Professor Kim gently reminds him that the special exam doesn't technically start for another 10 minutes. Fuming, the blonde official snaps back that it's not about the time, it's the student's arrogant vibe that's the real issue. Reading the room in a split second, our MC gets the picture. The academy's higher-ups clearly have it out for the forging department. As he clocks the drama, his eyes land on a blonde student, shooting him a look of pure disgust, and it all clicks. Why his master shipped him off to this school instead. In a sickly sweet voice, the preppy kid says, "It's an honor to meet him." Our boy is just confused. He's completely thrown, wondering why the hell the room is packed, when he's not even late. Suddenly, the door creaks open again, and a woman's voice calls out, asking if everyone's here. From the corner, the vice principal snarks that he was beginning to think the department head was a no-show. A jolt of pure shock rips through our boy. He recognizes that silhouette instantly, and his blood runs cold. Striding in like she owns the building, a red-haired woman in a sharp suit flops into a chair without a shred of decorum. Looking completely unapologetic, the woman introduces herself as college head Ryu Unha and offers a lazy excuse for being late. Barely holding it together, our MC is freaking out. What is she doing here? Memories from his past life flash through his mind. The redhead was supposed to have worked at Babel, but way later. He never ever would have guessed that this psycho was once in charge of the entire department. In the future, she'd be known as the S-rank hero, Weapon Eater, a freak with the power to literally eat swords, to absorb their strength. Before he rewound time, they'd been business associates for years, constantly trading high-tier gear. But back then, she always wore this haunted expression, constantly apologizing for consuming the masterpieces he'd forged. It all comes back like a fever dream. The suffocating atmosphere, the endless rain beating down on a landscape of utter ruin on that final day. The redhead had looked utterly broken, drenched by the storm as their world crumbled. Standing across from her, he could feel the crushing weight of their failure and the certainty of their doom. With a violent shudder, our MC is yanked back to the present, blinking the awful memories away. A sharp voice slices through the haze. It's Professor Kim, snapping him out of his trance once and for all, getting right down to business. The old master announces he's about to lay out the test rules and demands everyone's full attention. No messing around. The professor lays down the law. The challenge is locked at a tight 90 minutes. In that window, both contenders have to forge a weapon that complements the sword-themed trial they just aced. The professor lays down a critical ground rule: they are restricted to using purely alchemical forging techniques. Gesturing to a corner of the workshop, the old instructor points out the stockpile of raw materials. With all the options on display, the students get a free-for-all, allowed to grab any ore they want from the bins. He reminds them that the final creations will be judged by none other than Head Ryu and the insufferable vice principal. With a flair for the dramatic, the old-timer gives the final command for this high-stakes showdown to kick off. At his word, the tension in the room skyrockets, and the exam that will seal their fate at the academy officially begins. Apron on our boy runs through the entire theory of alchemical forging in his mind. Staring down the raw ores, he recalls the core principle: you have to resonate pure mana to keep the elemental magic from spiraling out of control. A smug voice slices through the quiet like a slap in the face, and our MC whips his head around in total disbelief. Dripping with arrogance, the preppy blonde scoffs, asking if our MC thinks he can just manifest mana by staring at some rocks. To shut down the cringe, the vice principal barks his own son's name, the warning, crystal clear in his tone. Stone-faced and blunt, the old man orders the kid to pipe down and quit the trash talk during an active test. Flashing a phony smile, Hans promises to behave, and that's when it finally clicks for our main character. Hearing the family name, the kid is completely floored. He realizes his pompous rival is the examiner's actual son. Seeing the uncanny family resemblance, our boy finds it hilarious, and thinks the kid being a total carbon copy of his dad makes perfect sense. Convinced he's already won the mental game, the rich kid smirks, thinking he's successfully rattled his opponent. In the blonde's mind, this whole competition is a joke, a high-status noble like him versus a random commoner. Clutching some blue stones, the rich kid flexes about possessing an insane mana reserve for someone his age. Holding the crystal like a trophy, Hans is absolutely convinced he's already secured the W without even trying. Across the room, the vice principal identifies the high-grade water stones and internally starts celebrating his son's victory. But Professor Kim, with a grave expression, warns that water-type mana is notoriously volatile against fire and a nightmare to refine. The vice principal just scoffs, dismissing it as old-school thinking and claiming alchemy has leveled up since then. Kim claps back, stating that forging times are all over the place, depending on the ore, and bets it'll take at least 30 minutes to see a single result. Oozing with pride, the blonde geezer fires back that Hans can synthesize any ore within that exact time frame. Over at the forge, the preppy kid starts channeling, hitting the perfect resonance to pull off the synthesis in exactly half an hour. The professor is genuinely shocked by the kid's speed, admitting his skills are on par with second-year students. And then, it hits him. Kim instantly sees through the examiner's sketchy setup. Boiling with silent fury, he realizes the vice principal totally rigged the game, setting a short time limit and providing materials that would perfectly suit his son. Completely unbothered by all the drama, our MC glances at the table and figures the available stones are more than enough for what he has planned. He swiftly snags a few red and white ores, leaving the judges totally baffled. The higher-ups squint, trying to figure out the logic behind the kid's seriously weird choice of materials. With a smug grin, the vice principal points out that those red stones are the complete elemental opposite of his son's blue ones. Baffled by this bold move, the guy can't tell if the blacksmith is a secret genius or just picking random stuff to be difficult. In his head, the preppy kid has already called the match, writing our guy off as a complete and utter moron. Barely holding back his laughter, the rich kid figures winning this thing is going to be a total cakewalk. But then a blinding flash of light erupts across the room, and the blonde's jaw drops, having no clue what's happening. With zero hesitation, our MC unleashes his secret weapon on the spot, the bond forging ability. A holographic window pops up, and he equips the fire link iron, bonding it directly to his right arm. In an instant, a blazing aura engulfs his entire fist, making it look like a gauntlet forged from pure magma. With his arm now a fiery inferno, the blacksmith gets ready to start his absolutely insane forging process. Startled by the bright light, Hans tries to play it cool, brushing off the spectacle as some cheap, flashy gimmick. But our MC ignores the hater, concentrating the fire even more, until a raging vortex of flame swirls in his palm. Plunging the red ores straight into the inferno, he melts them down with terrifying ease. Across the room, the judges watch, stunned by the sheer aggression of his technique. The vice principal, convinced it's pure insanity, declares the boy is a fool for trying to resonate elemental ore with raw mana. As a final jab, the suit-wearing man warns that forcing an aura like that is just asking for the mana to detonate. Right on cue, the flames spiral wildly as the power surges far beyond anyone's control. A blinding flash of energy erupts, completely engulfing the blacksmith as Hans just stares, his brain short-circuiting. Convinced his rival is about to blow the whole school sky high, the blonde throws a hand over his eyes and screams. He's yelling, asking where all that raw power is coming from. Once the light finally fades, a sheath forged from pure crackling flame hovers there. Majestic. A split second later, the system dings. Forging process complete. The creation's name, the stacked fire sheath. Over at the judge's table, the crimson-haired weapon eater shoots to her feet, her eyes wide with total disbelief. The vice principal is literally sputtering, completely unable to process how this kid actually managed to stabilize those volatile ores. A quick glance at the system screen reveals the stats this thing stores and amplifies fire mana, and it can unleash a skill called Wildfire. Hans is frozen solid, stammering out how it could even be possible for someone to wrap up the synthesis so ridiculously fast. The rich kid is in full-blown denial, insisting the elemental mana should have straight-up detonated in his rival's face. He glances down at his own half-finished mess, and suddenly every technique he spent his life mastering feels like a complete and utter lie. Absolutely desperate, the vice principal bellows for them to shut down the exam immediately, accusing the blacksmith of being a fraud. Completely unhinged, the helicopter dad flares up with a nasty electric aura, puffing his chest out to intimidate the boy. Our MC just watches this whole pathetic meltdown with an icy stare, letting out a confused sigh, as the entire mood is just nuked. The scene dissolves, flashing back to a conversation in the forging department's courtyard earlier that afternoon. Our MC stands there, a cynical smirk plastered on his face as he endures the vice principal's speech, a speech just dripping with fake sincerity. This dude claims our boy would have been a shoo-in for the top of the college if it weren't for a single serious problem. Putting on his best sad face, the big shot laments how it's such a tragedy they have to take extreme measures to justify this whole rigged situation. He then flips the script, blaming our guy's actions for causing accidents, all while grinding his clenched fist. The kid just scowls, totally pissed about losing by default, without even a real fight, knowing this whole thing is a setup. The vice principal then proposes they void the entire test and reschedule everything, pretending he gives a damn about the students. Professor Kim, clearly done with this BS, cuts in, pointing out they can't just scrap the test when the only disaster was Hans completely botching his own attempt. To shut the veteran down, the man in the suit goes on the attack, claiming Kim cares more about stats than he does about student well-being. Without missing a beat, the vice principal launches into his own wild theories about the kid's god-tier performance. Puffed up with arrogance, he declares that the world record for resonance is a solid 5 minutes, and some random freshman could never hope to shatter that. Screaming and jabbing his finger, the bigwig demands to know if the kid is some kind of freak of nature, to pull off instant resonance with nothing but pure mana. Fed up with this idiotic interrogation, our blacksmith decides it's time to drop some knowledge. He schools them, right then and there, on the real origins of alchemical forging. As an image of the sword materializes, he explains that the true technique doesn't destroy the ore, it awakens its very soul. He dramatically proclaims that tracing the roots of the core and drawing life directly from the stone is the definition of true alchemy. At the end of his epic lecture, our MC declares that's precisely what he did, adding that the entire forging world is bound to reach the same conclusion sooner or later. Then straight up, the kid says he owes zero explanations to some old fossil who thinks winning an argument means shouting the loudest. His ego completely bruised, the vice principal tries to flip it back on him, accusing the young man of using some underhanded, illegal means to cheat. In a whiny, accusatory tone, the man argues that a nobody with no powerful family connections could never craft a rare-grade weapon without stealing it first. So, over this loser's rant, our blacksmith just closes his eyes and wonders what kind of absolute garbage this man standing before him truly is. But just when you think it can't get any crazier, the redhead's voice slices through the tension, echoing from her perch on the counter, seemingly confirming the wild accusation. The department head agrees that the boy's speed was in fact ridiculously and suspiciously fast. At this, the vice principal pounces on the opportunity, immediately demanding they disqualify the candidate for cheating. But then, shocking everyone, the redhead hops down from the counter holding the very sheath our MC just forged, and she lets out this wicked, unnerving smile. Totally baffled by her presence, our boy just watches as the woman stalks closer and closer, her eyes completely locked on the weapon. Then, in a blink, her entire serious demeanor shatters, and she literally starts drooling. She's begging to take just one tiny bite of the sword. The secondhand embarrassment is so intense, the two old guys just stare completely dumbfounded, having absolutely no clue how to react. The whole scene just devolves into a total cringe fest, and whatever authority the judge had has evaporated into thin air. After that absolute train wreck, we cut to the city as the afternoon light begins to fade. Strolling through the streets, our MC is lost in thought, massively relieved to have escaped that room full of lunatics. Holding the sheath, he takes a moment to admire his own handiwork, and concedes the framework is solid, but could use a few tweaks. A laugh escapes him as he replays the memory of the vice principal's face, completely twisted with rage after that epic humiliation. But just as quickly, his smile fades. The suit's name starts echoing in his head, feeling way too familiar. He presses his temple, digging deep into his mind. Where the hell has he heard the name Barmouth before? Suddenly, a dark memory from the original timeline surfaces, showing that same bigwig buying up junk weapons that would later explode without warning. As his brain connects the dots, the kid remembers the scumbag blacksmith who left Mad Dog permanently crippled was named Barmouth. With the truth hitting him like a truck, he realizes the preppy vice principal has been a professional fraud from the very beginning. Faced with this insane revelation, our MC now knows exactly what triggered the apocalyptic future. His original game plan was simply to fix the 3 Mad Dogs before they could bring about the end of the world. But now that he sees the real source of the rot, he figures if he can stop Barmouth's shady business, the fiery redhead might never go completely off the deep end. Meanwhile, in a tense faculty meeting, the atmosphere is thick enough to cut with a knife. Stunned by the sheer audacity, professors are challenging the decision to name a blacksmith the top freshman. With her arms folded, the red-haired department head glares down the table, and asks if anyone in the room has the guts to defy her choice. Shaking like a leaf, one of the suits tries to backtrack, claiming it's just some friendly advice, not an actual challenge. From his corner, Barmith tries to pull the seniority card, reminding them all that the redhead only recently became department head. While admitting the kid's weapon was impressive, he insists on a formal rules review. Spitting venom, the old-timer accuses her of deliberately ignoring the sloppy craftsmanship. On the sheath our boy presented. Musing on it, another professor admits the kid has talent, but doubts he's really worthy of the absolute #1 spot. Without missing a beat, the redhead claps back, stating the weapon was only 60% complete, which is exactly what makes the kid a prodigy. Locking eyes with her rival, she raises a sharp eyebrow and asks if he seriously can't accept defeat after a display that ridiculous. Enraged, the vice principal slams his fist on the table, threatening to resign on the spot if she continues with this madness. Far from all that office politics, a flashback reveals the Tower of Heroes descended from the heavens, 54 years prior. In retaliation, the Abyss unleashed a demonic ocean to corrupt and swallow all life on the planet. It was to battle this monstrous tide that the colossal Babel Academy was built right in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Taking the lead, the formidable ascended emperor Ludwig Schubert tells the new students that they are destined to become legends. Within these hallowed halls, to thunderous applause, the Supreme Master sends the new wave of heroes charging toward glory. Amid the massive crowd, our boy scopes out the living legend who rules the academy with an iron fist. Despite the man's kind-looking face, the kid knows the grim reality that old man is a ruthless monster. Gripping his sword tight, our MC steels himself for the deadly trial to come. Up on the grand stage, the announcer roars that it's time for the long-awaited exhibitions from this year's top freshmen. On cue, the elite students from every college are summoned to the center of the gargantuan arena. Full of swagger, our blacksmith thinks to himself that he's always wondered what the hell made these rich kids so damn arrogant in his past life. Taking his first step onto the floor, our MC is hyped to see the show kick off and size up the competition. From his prime vantage point, he finally gets it. He understands their insane pride the moment he sees the sheer scale of the event. With a mic in hand, the announcer gets the packed stadium roaring, unveiling the target for the opening combat demonstration. In the middle of the sandy battleground, a Golem Model 9 automaton materializes, its metallic body gleaming with a lethal aura. Sizing up the robot, our boy instantly deduces it's a beast, designed purely for close-quarters combat. Full of energy, the announcer calls up the #1 representative from the combat college to start the show. With a grim look on his face, a blonde kid named Jake Myers steps into the ring, radiating terrifying confidence. As he comes face to face with the metal giant, a tense silence blankets the entire arena. From his past life memories, our MC remembers this guy as the weirdo heir of a sword-fighting clan who preferred to settle things with his fists. With his knuckles white, the blonde fighter announces flatly that the fun is about to begin. At the announcer's hyped-up scream, an invisible gong sounds and the brutal beatdown is officially on. In less than a heartbeat, the freshman explodes forward, tearing up the ground as he rockets straight for the automaton. With breathtaking speed, he unleashes a devastating series of aerial kicks that makes the armored machine shudder from the impacts. Sporting a totally unhinged grin, the fighter informs the robot that he's the one bringing the real firepower now. Before it can even process the threat, the blonde unleashes a fist, supercharged with pure destructive force. The impact is absolutely brutal. The golem's high-tech armor buckles and folds like a cheap sheet of aluminum foil. From the sidelines, the blacksmith just stares completely bewildered. He's floored because he vividly recalls this one-in-a-million prodigy dying an early death back in his previous life as a C-list hero. Utterly annihilated, the robot is sent rocketing into the distance, proving this kid's raw strength is off the charts, a total anomaly even for a place like Babel. A cold sweat trickles down his neck as our MC racks his brain, trying to figure out how a total monster like this ended up as a bottom-tier scrub in the future he remembers. The entire beatdown lasts mere seconds. The blonde just casually cracks his knuckles, ending the demonstration. He didn't even break a sweat. Meanwhile, the golem is a sparking, mangled wreck with zero chance of ever getting back up. Completely satisfied with that little warm-up, the combat freshman effortlessly brushes his hair back, flashing a cocky, victorious smirk to the roaring audience. The sheer brutality of the takedown leaves the announcer completely stunned, stumbling over his words as he tries to describe the carnage. Finally, finding his voice, he bellows into the mic, hyping up how Jake just erased a C-rank threat in a single jaw-dropping instant. The massive stadium absolutely erupts. Thousands of fans are on their feet, the name of the fighting prodigy echoing through the stands. Cutting through the noise, our quick-thinking hero realizes the blonde just set an impossibly high bar for the next contender. Right on cue, the MC's voice booms over the speakers, calling forth the top-ranked student from the support division. She's up next to try and top that insane performance. But the moment our MC hears the name, a cynical smirk plays on his lips. He knows pressure isn't even in this gloomy girl's vocabulary. His memories from the future are crystal clear. He knows all about Erika Inu. She's the heir to one of Japan's 3 legendary support houses, a true prodigy, but he also knows her story takes a seriously twisted turn. She gets corrupted by demonic power and is ultimately hunted down and killed by her own blood. Knowing her tragic fate, our blacksmith makes a snap decision: stay the hell away from the dark-haired girl. But then out of nowhere, her icy gaze locks directly onto him. He's left totally baffled by the sudden attention. Down on the polished stage, the announcer declares to the audience that the next automaton is a new model decked out in special armor that's way more durable than the last. Trying to get the audience even more hyped, the announcer poses the question: what kind of insane skill can a support major possibly use to outdo that display of raw power? Without uttering a single word, Erika just raises her hand and a menacing black cage materializes, pulsing with a heavy, ominous aura. Her left eye begins to glow, an eerie cyan, as she issues a curt, sharp command to her summoned familiar. Instantly, a crow made of pure dark energy slips between the cage's bars, taking flight and circling the massive arena. Like a shadowy missile, the magical bird plummets from the rafters, hurtling straight for the reinforced metal behemoth. Annoyed by how simple it all seems, our MC scoffs, thinking it's almost pathetic to send a scrawny bird to take down a slab of reinforced steel. Detecting the incoming threat, the robot switches to full defensive mode, projecting a massive energy shield to protect itself. Our blacksmith does some quick mental math and concludes there is zero chance that Tiny Crow can break through a supposedly impenetrable barrier. But just as he thinks that, the bird flaps its wings and detonates in a blinding flash of unholy light, flooding the area with pure dark power. In less than a blink, a violent shockwave rips across the arena floor, vaporizing the heavy automaton as if it were nothing but dust. The deadly crow then calmly reforms midair, floating back down to perch on Erika's finger. It leaves behind nothing but shredded metal. The entire stadium goes absolutely ballistic, erupting in a deafening roar of screams and applause. They're losing their minds over the unbelievable attack that just effortlessly obliterated a C-rank defensive target. Even our usually smug MC is just standing there, his jaw on the floor, completely blown away by how easily she pulled that off. Before the crowd's excitement can even begin to fade, the announcer's voice thunders through the speakers once more, summoning the #1 freshman from the engineering department to take the stage. Under the watchful eyes of thousands and the piercing gaze of the Emperor himself, our boy steps into the spotlight, knowing he has to pull off something legendary, or he'll become a total laughingstock. From his seat of power, the Emperor remarks that this year's crop of freshmen is on another level entirely. From the judge's box, the redhead observes with an intense expression, like a master sizing up her prized apprentice. The packed arena is buzzing, everyone wondering if the blacksmith can possibly top Erika's mind-blowing display. Planting his feet firmly in the sand, our guy ignites the 5-color flame blade, ready to put on a real performance. On the main holoscreen, the sword's stats flash, identifying it as a rare-grade weapon, forged from pure condensed fire. The students in the stands are floored. They can't wrap their heads around a first-year crafting something so incredible. But up in the VIP suites, some of the elites are already murmuring, complaining that a glowing sword just doesn't have the same show-stopping flair as the others. Convinced he's already won, the blonde vice principal flashes a sinister grin, already tasting victory over the redhead's department. Over the loudspeaker, the announcer offers to send out a robot on par with a D-rank hero, but our boy shuts him down immediately. Stone cold, the blacksmith calls for the Model B, demanding it be fitted with full heavy armor. The announcer is floored, stammering into the mic, unable to process what sounds like a straight-up death wish from this kid. His voice crackles over the loudspeakers, warning everyone that this model can tank hits from legit B-rank heroes without even getting a dent in its armor. The announcer is internally freaking out, convinced this kid is intentionally trying to torpedo his own demonstration. But our MC doesn't even flinch. He stands his ground and just tells them to roll out the monster already. A heavy thud shakes the arena as the armored behemoth slams down, kicking up a storm of dust. Facing this absolute unit of a machine, the entire stadium goes dead silent. The sheer size of the lethal machine has everyone holding their breath. After a beat of stunned silence, the MC officially kicks off the fight, goading our boy to show him what he's made of. The announcer, still visibly shook, just kinda mumbles that the demonstration has begun, with absolutely no idea what's about to go down. Beneath the open sky, every eye in the stadium is locked onto the lone silhouette of the blacksmith, who's squaring off against this absolute titan of a robot. A confident smirk curls on our MC's lips as he accepts the challenge, promising to put on a performance no one will ever forget. His hand finds the hilt of his sword. He sinks into his stance, ready to demonstrate what a perfectly forged weapon can really do. Instantly, wild flames erupt from the blade, bathing the arena in a blistering, hellish light. Like a fiery comet, the kid launches himself forward. The very ground splits apart in his wake as he rockets straight toward the walking fortress. And while the crowd is absolutely stunned, The vice principal just smirks, crossing his arms and dismissing the spectacle as nothing more than cheap fireworks. The arrogance is dripping off him. He's absolutely convinced a low-mana kid like him can't even tickle that hunk of steel. But back in the arena, our MC is laser-focused. He knows these 5-colored flames are wildly unstable, powerful enough to literally tear the wielder apart to get around that fatal flaw. He's using his unique sheath as a containment unit, a reactor to absorb and stabilize the sword's chaotic energy. With pinpoint accuracy, he funnels the crimson flame deep into the gleaming sheath's interior. The second it's done, the blacksmith's eye flashes a menacing golden hue. This is it. The true technique awakens. Now absolutely surging with all that stored-up power, he triggers his skill, Wildfire. It's a goddamn maelstrom of fire, and that skill acts like a detonator, setting off a simultaneous explosion of every last drop of compressed mana. The automaton has zero time to defend, as it's swallowed whole by the 5-colored inferno. And in a split second, a deafening explosion rocks the stadium as a column of pure fire shoots straight up into the sky. The heavy armor is instantly vaporized. The announcer is so shocked he literally drops the microphone completely at a loss for words in the face of that insane destructive force. When the smoke finally clears, the scene is devastating. There's a giant crater in the arena floor, and the robot has been reduced to a pool of molten metal. Surveying the absolute wreckage he's caused, our guy just casually scratches the back of his neck and thinks to himself that maybe, just maybe, he overdid it a little. The announcer, now in full-on panic mode, starts screaming for the construction crew to get down there. He's shouting for them to rush the arena immediately. But through all the chaos, an automated message from the academy chimes in. The freshman's evaluation has been successfully completed. With supreme honors, actually. Later in the ridiculously fancy head office, our MC shows up late apologizing that he was busy helping clean up the situation. He looks genuinely guilty, admitting he feels bad for trashing the main arena so violently, but totally out of left field. The redhead woman tells him she's the one who should have handled it, and she apologizes on his behalf. Our MC is completely thrown, asking, "Wait, wasn't I called in here to get royally screamed at by the administration?" Without hesitation, the woman shoots that idea down, explaining the real reason he's here is for something much more interesting. All of a sudden, she lunges at him, a crazy look in her eyes and literally drooling with hunger. This bizarre display has our boy completely terrified. Still on the couch and with no clue what's happening, the blacksmith starts inching away. He's sweating bullets, especially after her stomach lets out an earth-shattering growl. The department head gives a fake cough, trying to regain some semblance of composure and avoid total embarrassment. Then, getting straight to business, she offers him 10 times the market value for the weapons he created earlier. The woman is almost pleading with him, begging him to sell her the blade and the sheath. The reason, so she can literally devour the metal. Our MC is in absolute shock, asking if he actually heard her insane proposal to eat military equipment. And at that exact moment, his system dings, confirming that a special affinity has just been established with the weapon-eating hero. The woman, completely mesmerized by the metal, claims that the weapon set smelled absolutely delicious, like just based on its scent. Internally, our MC is stunned. He managed to form an affinity with her so quickly before he's even actually fed the psycho. A sly smile creeps onto his face. He thanks her for the high praise, realizing this is a golden opportunity presented by the system, and he's not about to waste it. Without missing a beat, he activates his affinity extraction skill right then and there, in a brilliant flash of blue. The system confirms that a special grade affinity has been successfully yoinked from the redhead. Up on his holographic display, he sees he's gained the passive ability to forge Mad Blood Steel, a metal that corrodes and devours other metals as a spiky red core materializes in his hand. Our blacksmith is just vibing, admiring this insane reward he just scored. But reality hits hard when the redhead starts practically drooling, begging him to sell. He hits her with a hard no. And just as she's about to go full-on psycho, a sharp knock echoes from the door. In walks Professor Kim, and he is not here to chill. The look on his face is dead serious as he drops a bombshell. The Emperor is summoning the freshman. Immediately. Apparently it's for the final ceremony. The professor basically says, "He's with me," and the department head, looking defeated, has no choice but to let it slide. With a quick nod, our guy leaves the thirsty redhead in the dust and follows his master down the massive hallway. Left all alone, the woman lets out a massive sigh of frustration. So close to getting her hands on that perfect fire sword, and now, nothing. The camera pans out, flying across campus to the imposing central complex, the armored heart of Babel Academy itself. They stride through these ridiculously lavish corridors, but the air is thick with tension. Not a single word is spoken as they approach their gargantuan destination. Professor Kim breaks the silence, his voice low with a warning. "Listen, the big boss didn't even flinch when the arena got wrecked. You better show some serious respect." Standing before the Titan's door, the veteran gives one last piece of advice. The man inside is on a completely different plane of existence. But our MC, he just flashes a calm smile. He assures the professor, "Don't worry, I know exactly who I'm about to meet," just as the heavy doors begin to swing inward. A powerful voice dripping with authority booms through the massive hall, calling our blacksmith by his name. There he is, the absolute ruler Ludwig planted on his throne. His eyes lock onto our boy with a gaze so intense it feels like he's peering right into his soul. And a flash from his past life hits him. He remembers this legendary hero, and how he tragically perished in the future, trying to hold back the demon gods. He can feel it, this crushing, overwhelming pressure. This is the aura of an apex predator, someone sitting at the very top of the food chain. The old emperor's voice is calm, but his words hit hard. He comments that the weapons forged back at the demonstration were, quote, absurdly interesting. He's straight up praising our guy's raw talent, calling his technique flawless and admitting he's hyped to see what path this kid will carve out for himself. Our MC takes a deep, steadying breath. The small talk is over. He's in the lion's den, and the real deadly test is about to kick off. Cutting right to the chase, the emperor decrees that a talent like his deserves not one, but two special rewards from the academy. In a steady tone, the supreme ruler tells the kid to speak his mind, to say exactly what he needs without holding anything back. Our guy doesn't miss a beat. He asks for rewards to amplify his magic power and to recover his own sealed memories. Now that's an unusual request, and the leader is clearly intrigued. He lifts his right hand and a divine aura floods the entire throne room. Suddenly, a shimmering golden shield materializes from the shadows, slicing through the air with a sharp metallic ring. A system window pops up in front of the blacksmith, displaying two insane options, heavy black ink and dream ivory. He's totally stoked. The black ink is a rare find for sure, but the dream ivory, that's a legendary tier relic, something you'd be lucky to even hear about, let alone find. Grinning like a madman, the young man admits to himself that trying to use it right now would be a massive headache. But it's fine, he's already cooking up a plan. From the sidelines, Professor Kim whispers, asking if the reward is to the new freshman's liking. Tossing the ivory in his hand, our MC guarantees that it's beyond perfect for the future forging he has in mind. Over in the corner, the Emperor watches the boy, his expression thoughtful, trying to figure out what's spinning around in that kid's head. Completely fascinated, the leader murmurs that handing out two god-tier rewards to a single student was completely unheard of until this very moment. In his mind, he admits he only unleashed the double power because this kid proved he could handle the weight that came with it. To the veteran Emperor, the young man's posture isn't that of some scared, trembling freshman. It's the posture of an ancient soul in a teenager's body. And with that thought, the master's sharp gaze shifts back towards the exit. He's waiting to see what this prodigy will do next. With his back to the throne room, our blacksmith walks away. His mind is reeling, processing the insane power of Babel's master. And just like that, the scene cuts straight to the sunlit academy courtyard. The next morning, Hans is holding court with his usual crew of clout chasers when he loudly turns down a lunch invite, claiming he's already got plans with Howard. That name drop gets everyone's attention. The lackeys are all whispering, wondering how this preppy dude managed to link up with the top third-year student. Puffing out his chest, the blonde spins some story about how their families are tight, and the upperclassman just wants to drop some golden advice on him. And right on cue, the classroom door slams open, and the arrogant kid practically swallows his tongue when he sees who just strolled in. Ice cold and direct, our boy shoots a look of pure disgust, right at his defeated rival. Shaking with silent rage, the rich kid can't take the pressure of that killer death stare. Our blacksmith strolls right past the entire group, letting out a silent, mocking laugh in his head. He can tell Hans is finally getting the message he's nothing but trash. But deep down, the blonde's fist is clenched tight. He is absolutely seething, humiliated by some no-name commoner. Ignoring the drama, Professor Kim's voice cuts through the tension. He tells everyone to park it in their seats immediately. Standing at the podium, the old-timer confirms that the entire class. For the first official class, the master's voice booms, announcing that the freshman presentations are not going to be some lame high school speech. He slams a heavy crate down in front of everyone, overflowing with ores known as projection alloy. Without missing a beat, the veteran explains that this stone has a violent reaction to mana, literally pulling solid forms out of thin air. For a brutal little demo, the professor channels a single drop of his mana into a piece. A colossal magic spear erupts from the ground and cracks the ceiling. Our boy's jaw is on the floor. He finally understands why this old-timer is hailed as one of the world's greatest artisans. But the blacksmith knows this insane power isn't coming from Professor Kim himself, but is a property of the projection alloy. Getting back on track, the master warns that the ore exposes the hidden nature of its wielder, crafting totally unique weapons. This weirdly personal connection makes the material useless for mass-producing standard-issue armaments. To cap off his lecture, the old man reveals these custom creations are called avatars of the soul. For their final test, the professor declares that every student must forge their own avatar, which will be exhibited in the main hall for an entire week. Laser-focused, the first years begin pouring mana into the ore, sweating bullets as they try to tame a rock that costs millions a pop. After a moment, a kid named Han lets out a yell as a fancy rapier materializes, revealing his mana reserves are wide but shallow. Getting tired of all the fakers, our guy realizes no one in the room possesses the raw talent to truly be impressive. From the back of the classroom, the professor finally calls our hero's name to wrap up the presentations. With the ore clutched in his hand, the blacksmith unleashes his own fire essence, deciding he's got no reason to hold back anymore. In that exact moment, scarlet flames burst from the stone, whipping into a wild, uncontrollable vortex. He's here to inspire fear. If he's going to do this, he might as well go all out and utterly crush the competition. A gigantic shockwave of energy suddenly explodes through the room, making the entire academy roof tremble from the sheer force. Far from the forgery students in the main building are already gathering to check out the new Avatar exhibit. Dead center in the hall, the crowd instantly spots the new blacksmith's intimidating sword and agrees the rookie is on another plane of existence. The upperclassmen just stare absolutely stunned, admitting that level of power is just ridiculous for a brand new freshman. The display plaque reveals that during its creation, his weapon actually sucked in and consumed 19 nearby projection alloys. Seething with jealousy, some random student tries to downplay his achievement, claiming he only made a huge weapon because he stole other people's ore. Out of nowhere, the support class freshman Erica cuts through the crap coldly, stating that's not the real story. Beside her, with his eyes still closed, the combat prodigy Jake Myers silently agrees. To these two academy powerhouses, the truth is that even 20 alloys combined weren't nearly enough to contain the blacksmith's full power. In a rapid flashback, we see our MC hammering away at the glowing hot steel with a blind fury. With razor-sharp focus, he brings the hammer down in a series of perfect strikes, sending explosions of sparks everywhere. Completely mesmerized, Professor Kim mentally tracks the forging speed and is utterly shocked by the kid's mechanical perfection. By the professor's count, the kid was striking the metal without an error margin of even 0.1 seconds. Left literally speechless, the master just decides to skip the student's turn in class. There was nothing he could teach a monster like that. The old-timer finally ends the lesson, and the other students breathe a collective sigh of relief, but our blacksmith stays zoned in at his station. Totally lost in his craft, the young man doesn't even register the bell, continuing his insane rhythm of hammer strikes. With his arms screaming in protest, the kid at last drops the hammer to inspect the graveyard of broken blades on his workbench. Out of the blue, the professor's assistant emerges from the shadows with glowing eyes, asking if he's planning on breaking everything yet again. The blacksmith flinches startled and greets the prim and proper monitor, trying to conceal his exhaustion. She gets right to business, warning him that they are required to submit at least one of those creations to the sales department. In other words, he needs to stop destroying them. Thrown by this rule, our MC asks how on earth students get the cash to fund their budgets. Brushing off his question, the assistant smugly asks if his issue is a weak body or a lack of mana. With a smirk, the kid admits that the main thing limiting his technique right now is in fact his own weak body. Panting, the young man slumps against the table, confessing he doesn't have the sheer physical endurance to withstand the punishing heat. He just can't handle smelting that dense ore. Without a shred of empathy, the monitor suggests that if forging is his bottleneck, maybe he needs some external assistance. Intrigued, the blacksmith mulls over the suggestion. It clicks in his head that applying magical enhancements to his own body would be a much faster path to results. His mind starts racing as he realizes that using magic buffs on himself could accelerate his progress like crazy, than just brute forcing it. He can't help but chuckle at his own foolishness. He completely ignored buffs in his past life, which is why this genius hack never even crossed his mind. Ready to game the system, he flares his energy aura, and boom, the immense pressure feels like nothing. Giving the guy a nod for the pro tip, our blacksmith gears up to get back to the grind, while the assistant just shrugs, looking completely over it. But just as he's about to walk off, the preppy dude stops dead in his tracks and drops another savage piece of advice, telling him to focus on technique, not just raw power. From across the room, the monitor barks at him for wasting mana, ordering him to dial it back to just 10% and channel every last drop into one single point on the hammer. Taking the advice to heart, our blacksmith realizes that nailing the technique is the real play here and just walks away. The monitor is left totally speechless, frozen on the spot, completely floored that some random freshman just shut him down like that. Over on the forge, the massive hammer sits cold, signaling the end of another grueling session. Elsewhere, the Academy's system broadcasts a reminder that Babel champions self-directed learning, even letting students take classes from other departments. But our guy knows the rules. He's got to crush his required courses first, because expulsion comes knocking after 3 failures. Over the loudspeaker, the train announces its arrival at the sorcery department station, making it crystal clear that every student here is the architect of their own fate. The moment he steps onto the platform, our MC is met with the sight of Erica, flanked by a crew of arrogant upperclassmen dripping with swagger. One of the meatheads crosses his arms and tells the freshman to beat it. With an expression of pure, unfiltered boredom, our boy fires back that they're the ones blocking the path. He doesn't even wait for a reply. The blacksmith just plows forward, shouldering past them with an aura so oppressive, it sends the wannabes stumbling back in fear. Trailing right behind him, the stone-faced girl cuts straight to the chase, curtly asking where he's headed. Glancing over his shoulder, he casually mentions he's off to the sorcery department to pick up a minor, pissed off at being blown off. The upperclassmen decide to shoot their shot, offering the famous first year a personal tour, but they just keep pushing, and one of them starts talking about some elite party, telling our MC to disappear. Erica's eyes go ice cold, and she drops a simple, not interested, shutting down his fake charm instantly. Finally, away from the clowns, the dark-haired girl asks him what specific class he's actually trying to find. Straight to the point, our guy replies, that he needs to learn magic buffs to supercharge his own body. Without missing a beat, she warns him that physical enhancement spells are completely incompatible with blacksmithing techniques. That little tidbit gets his gears turning, so our MC pivots and asks about defensive magic barriers instead. All business, the first year whips out a high-class envelope and casts a sealing spell on it right there to show him what she means. Her mana swirls around it, forging magical chains that bind the paper, a clear flex that she's an absolute master of the craft. She then hands the sealed letter to him, daring the blacksmith to try and tear it open with his bare hands. He yanks on it with everything he's got, but immediately notices the spell didn't just make the paper tougher. On the contrary, he realizes the magic maintains the paper's normal properties, but makes it diamond hard the instant it detects an impact, confirming he's dead on. She explains that this kind of insane control requires one-on-one lessons with a top-tier professor. Looking closer at the barrier's design, the young woman recognizes her own family's unique formula and offers to connect him with a major player in the administration. But instead of taking the handout, our MC just presses his index finger directly onto the enchanted wax seal. Something clicks in his head, and by just feeling the flow of mana, he instantly reverse engineers the entire barrier. In less than a blink, the spell shatters into a million pieces like cheap glass, leaving the girl absolutely stunned. A smirk spreads across his face, and our blacksmith thanks her for the free lesson, stating these barriers are going to be insanely useful. Turning on his heel, the kid announces he's going to sign up immediately, and sarcastically tells his classmate to go hang out with her fan club. Right on cue, those same loser upperclassmen sprint over timidly asking if the freshman girl is okay. And there on the ground, the shattered letter reveals an elegant, noble crest proving it was a VIP invitation. Totally ticked off, the girl glares at the shredded paper, muttering under her breath that the exclusive invite was actually for him. Meanwhile, our MC arrives at the massive, intimidating staircase of the sorcery department. As he cuts through the courtyard, he overhears people gossiping about Erica dating some other guy, and just shakes his head with a little laugh. He thinks about how quickly people invent drama without a single clue what's really going on. Laser-focused, he remembers that to even enroll in the course, he first has to pass a hands-on test out in the wilds at a designated location. Stepping up to a wall of dense forest, our blacksmith spots a familiar face, the same gloomy girl just standing there. Nearby, some random applicant starts whining, beefing with the wind and demanding to know where the hell the test entrance is. As our guy sizes up the woods, it clicks. The academy is kicking things off with some lame-ass treasure hunt. He scoffs at their laziness and decides to just plunge into the forest and get this whole charade over with. But the second he takes a step, his boot smacks into a massive invisible wall rising straight from the dirt. With zero effort, the entire barrier explodes into 1,000 shimmering shards, revealing a hidden clearing deep within the trees. From the control room, the proctors stare completely floored, and an announcement crackles over the speakers that the freshman has already cleared the first phase. Stunned by how fast it was over, our MC just kind of mumbles, wondering if that was really it. Meanwhile, in some lavish office, the professor of barrier construction remarks on the prodigy's sudden interest in his course. His assistant, standing next to the old man, confirms the rumor and slides over a phone, displaying a live feed of the swarming forest. The blonde master glares at the screen annoyed and grumbles that applications have tripled all because of that one girl's clout. To weed out all the clout chasers, the old-timer reveals he cooked up a nasty illusion labyrinth for this year's exam. A flash of memory hits him, a redhead with a creepy smile, as the professor remembers getting a special request from some VIP. As the professor explains, this isn't just some magic wall, it's a trap designed to twist an intruder's very soul. Giant serpents slither across the screen, as he guarantees any average Joe will get lost in the dark until they tap out. But then, the old master's expression just crumbles. He watches the new blacksmith absolutely obliterate the illusion, like it was a cheap pane of glass. Running the footage back, the professor confirms it. The kid did it all on his own, with no help or hints from any of the clan heirs. Completely baffled, the professor has to admit bulldozing through that labyrinth on pure instinct alone is just inhuman. Back on the field, the proctor's voice rings out, announcing the end of Stage 1 to the handful of survivors. A cocky, red-haired upperclassman pushes his way to the front, with a psycho grin plastered on his face declaring he's going first in the next phase. All around them, the background characters are all whispering that this is the perfect chance to impress the gloomy girl and shoot their shot. Ignoring all the flexing, the proctor gestures to a giant glowing web of magic and issues. The challenge: disable the barrier without disrupting its energy flow. After a quick rundown of the rules, the evaluator tells the redhead to start making it clear that raw speed is all that matters for the score. The second his hands touch the web, the upperclassman feels it an energy spider. At the core is constantly regenerating the threads, unless it's contained. Panicking a little, he tries to isolate the core using the textbook method, but he can feel his own mana draining at an alarming rate. With no other choice, he switches gears and just decides to go full-on brute force, hoping to smash it before his tank hits empty. He unleashes everything he's got, shattering the magic before collapsing to the ground, panting. The evaluator clicks the stopwatch, 2 minutes and 23 seconds. The proctor totally roasts him for his sloppy technique, but even so, the redhead pushes himself up with a smug grin, convinced his time was god tier. Immediately after him, a whole wave of wannabes tries and fails spectacularly, none of them even coming close to disarming the trap. Completely out of patience, the proctor just points at the washouts and boots the entire group down to the beginner's class. The list is almost cleared when it's finally Erika Inu's turn, and her intense presence instantly silences the entire forest. With a calm, focused look, the evaluator nods, giving the heir of the legendary Japanese clan the go-ahead to show everyone what she's made of. In less than a blink, a savage pulse of light erupts from her, and the entire magical web disintegrates into dust at her feet. The crowd loses it, the freshmen screaming, demanding to know how she just deleted the entire formula, without even breaking a sweat. With a classy hair flip, the support queen gives them a razor-sharp look, cementing her status as a total legend. The proctor glances at the stopwatch and announces an insane 22 seconds, but adds that the textbook method would have actually been a hair faster. To wrap things up, the evaluator looks up from his clipboard and bellows our monster blacksmith's name to the testing arena. As our MC stares at the web, he doesn't see anything special about the trap, at first glance anyway. Getting closer, he lets out a low mumble, his eyes tracing the intricate structure. The other students don't get his hesitation and start mocking him, asking if the noob even knows the clock is ticking. But he's completely zoned in. Our blacksmith realizes this barrier's magical properties are exactly like a super dense ore. And according to forging theory, to melt something like this, you need a perfect balance of multiple forces all applied at the exact same time. From the sidelines, the evaluator is just scratching his head, having no clue what this rookie is trying to accomplish. By just standing there like a statue. Cutting through the chatter, Erika tells everyone to shut it and let the guy concentrate. Completely captivated, the monitor watches the unfolding scene, a wild theory already sparking in his mind. The kid thrusts his hand forward, blasting raw fire mana straight into the spell matrix. In an instant, a vicious crimson inferno erupts, completely swallowing the barrier's central spider. As the flames incinerate the illusion, the onlookers can only stumble back in pure shock. With a decisive slap on the ground, the boy flashes a triumphant grin, declaring the job finished. He's celebrating a breakthrough, a brand new high-speed method for refining heavyweight stone. Utterly floored by the result, the assistant professor stops his watch, his brain refusing to process what it just witnessed. With a shaky voice, the old-timer announces the laughably slow time of 7 minutes and 45 seconds. But the evaluator waves off the stopwatch. The time is totally irrelevant, because next time that kid will obliterate the barrier in seconds. In the end, this prodigy didn't just smash the web. He engineered a flawless counter-magic formula designed to completely neutralize the original spell. The old-timer is literally shaking in his boots, imagining the god-tier weapons this blacksmith could create by merging actual sorcery with heavy-duty metallurgy. Cut to the next day, an official request pings on the system from our boy to use the intermediate-level furnace, along with hero-rank materials. Over in the teacher's lounge, an assistant stares at the display, wondering how many masters are about to go to war for the chance to supervise this forging session. A split second later, the guy's phone completely bricks from the tidal wave of notifications from senior instructors, all battling for the coveted spot. But amid the hype, the assistant spots something weird. None of the vice principal's usual cronies have put in a request, which proves the vibe over there is absolutely toxic after Hansa's humiliation. As he's about to select the lucky supervisor, he's cut off by a direct message from the high command that hijacks the entire chat. The message is an order the department head herself is going to personally oversee the freshman's forging. Back in the workshop, our MC hears a familiar greeting, drifting in from the main entrance. Blindsided by the visit, the boy points out that she must be busy, but the redhead brushes it off with an excuse. claiming she needs to assess his skills firsthand. Facing down the intense department head, the kid vows to give it his all and shifts his focus to the work. On his workbench, with the dense black stone in his grip, he kicks off the first phase of the smelting. According to metallurgical doctrine, the black veil method is the most difficult and certifiably insane technique for handling this bizarre material. In practice, the process demands the stone be isolated in a container of absolute pitch-black darkness, untouched by a single photon of light. In this environment, the stone liquefies instantly, and the blacksmith must then purge all impurities using pure mana to amplify the core's quality. On paper, it sounds almost easy, but our boy knows it's the equivalent of rewriting matter on an atomic scale. With surgical precision, he condenses the stone to 1/4 of its original mass to preserve the metal's lethal potential. Moving on to Phase 2, the kid unleashes a blazing crimson flame, engulfing the entire workshop in a suffocating infernal heat. Drenched in sweat, our MC begins injecting his own life force into the fire to maintain perfect control of the reaction, channeling his mana through the inferno. From the very heart of the magical firestorm, he plucks out only the most flawless embers. Soon, the energy stabilizes, becoming the legendary Gordian wildfire, which locks the magic at a precise temperature. Without missing a beat, he transitions into the third stage, bringing a glowing green, flame-wreathed hammer crashing down upon the black stone relentlessly. From her front row seat, the redhead can only watch, absolutely stunned, as she comprehends the sheer agony the boy is enduring to contain that fire in his bare hands. Shrugging off the crippling exhaustion, the monster just keeps hammering the ore with tireless fury bathed in the emerald light. Outside hours blur together as the academy sky melts into the deep hues of twilight, heralding the night. After 4 solid hours of brutal non-stop hammering, the kid finally lets the heavy mallet fall to the bench. Now completely saturated with fire, the black stone stabilizes into a smooth form, and its fundamental properties begin to warp and rewrite themselves. With a deep sigh of relief, he confirms the stone's chaotic magical distortion has completely vanished. Wasting no time, the young smith hurls the processed stone into the small furnace to begin the final melt. Watching the black liquid metal pour into the mold, the red-haired head finds his choice to use a cast over free forging to be odd, believing the darkness will corrupt the magic. She's now totally hooked and creeps closer to the bench, desperate to decipher the kid's suicidal game plan. In the fourth and final stage, a wicked, maniacal grin spreads across the blacksmith's face, and it all clicks for her. He's using the barrier-breaking formula to etch a mana circuit directly into the metal. With a final series of blows, the mold cracks open, revealing the absolute gem inside. And right on cue, the system dings, announcing the birth of the Black Spider bracelet. It also hooks our boy up with the Black Spirit thread skill. A quick glance at the holographic window confirms this is a rare great tier item, boasting a sick passive that continuously soaks up and banks the user's own mana. He is absolutely vibing with his new creation. This insane recipe was a total W. But then, a monstrous growl erupts from the redhead's stomach, completely shattering the victory mood and echoing through the entire workshop. In the dead silence that follows, they just lock eyes, the second-hand embarrassment hitting critical levels. Trying to salvage what's left of her dignity, the hero clears her throat, trying to play it off like the sound was just some metal resonance phenomenon. Evaluating the bracelets, our guy knows the raw power is kinda mid, but he plans to lean into a powerful set effect to totally cheese his way through future fights. Feeling a little bad about her starving, he tosses her the leftover black, or so she doesn't walk away with nothing. Without missing a beat, the absolute psycho activates her Dragon Soul furnace, conjuring a red flame inside her mouth to gulp down the boiling hot stone. With the chunk of metal just sitting there, she starts chewing on it, casually commenting that the snack is actually pretty decent. Then, in the weirdest comparison ever, she states with total certainty that the black stone tastes exactly like fried tempura batter. Her reaction instantly zaps our guy back to the old days, when he was constantly trying to satisfy this woman's exotic and bizarre palate. Now that she's fed, the blacksmith figures it'll be a cakewalk to raise their affinity level and thanks her for the probably fake compliment. The hero, on the other hand, is practically drooling, her eyes locked on the freshly forged luxury swords sitting on another table. To force the issue, she bluntly asks when he's going to sell her the colorful sword and fire sheath so she can have them for dessert. But our boy stands his ground, crushing her hopes by saying, "Nothing's for sale right now." The redhead just assumes it's a cash flow problem. Justifying his refusal, our MC explains he needs the weapons for his subjugation class, adding that a little hunger is the best spice to build up the hype. To keep her from going totally feral, he promises she's first in line the second he forges something he can't use, and a triumphant grin immediately spreads across her face. Satisfied with the deal, the hero asks if they're finally done for the day, and gets a completely wiped out, "Oh, yeah," from the freshman, Calling it a wrap, she says the cleaning crew will handle the mess, saving the energy our boy clearly doesn't have. But the moment he takes a step, the blacksmith's legs completely give out, and his body just crumples toward the floor. With some insane reflexes, the redhead zips over and snags the kid, right before he can faceplant on the hard cement. Worried, she checks if he's even conscious, while he shamefully admits he's completely burned through all his physical stamina during the forging session. Cashing in her favor for the snack, she declares she's hauling him to his dorm by force, and then randomly asks if he's afraid of heights. Before he can even answer, the hero scoops him up into her arms, full-on Princess Carrie style, leaving the poor guy completely blindsided by the situation. With one absolutely bonkers leap, the woman smashes clean through the window and soars across the academy skies, propelled by brilliant red flames. Stunned by her own power, the crazy redhead realizes that stone she ate was packed with an absurd amount of energy. A smirk plays on our MC's lips as he concludes that things have really changed since he traveled back in time. In a low flight across the campus, the hero carries the kid straight to his dorm with zero effort. Meanwhile, the gloomy girl, Erica, is still waiting, posted up in front of the building and clutching a torn invitation she needs to deliver. Online, students are already blowing up the forums with rumors and pictures of the freshman girl who's been waiting for the blacksmith at his door for over 3 hours. In the comments, people are freaking out with jealousy, calling our boy a moron for leaving a beauty like that waiting outside. Then, out of nowhere, the mods nuke the entire post, leaving our guy totally confused as he stares at his phone screen, having no idea what that drama was about. Shaking off the weird online vibe, the blacksmith sits down at his desk in the classroom and decides to just focus on his own grind. Up at the front, Professor Rick Rose Miles introduces himself to kick off their Understanding Tools course. Wasting no time, the jacked professor orders everyone to the training center and warns that the last person to get there has to run 20 laps. A wave of pure panic washes over the students as they start sprinting desperately to escape punishment on the very first day. Totally baffled, our MC grumbles that this class was supposed to be all theory, not a physical hellscape. Swept up in the stampede, he just starts running to avoid getting left behind. Amid the chaos on the track, people are already gasping for air, just trying to survive the brutal warm-up. After 20 insane laps, half the class is just sprawled out on the sand, completely drained of energy. Panting like crazy, the blacksmith has to admit his physical stamina in this life is complete trash. With his hands on his knees, he struggles to catch his breath. To shut down the whining, the professor claps with a thunderous crack, instantly seizing the attention of the drained class. His voice cuts through the room as the master reveals that theory is officially over. A recent murder spree just made things personal. The killers are fire sword hunters, and he explains that these psychopaths are specifically hunting down blacksmiths, the very ones capable of forging elite flaming blades. Digging into his past, a cold memory surfaces for our kid. He's witnessed this kind of attack before. He gets it immediately. Self-defense just became the #1 priority. To drive the point home, the old-timer issues one final warning. He growls that just understanding the tools isn't enough. They'll need pure, raw strength just to stay alive. With everyone's focus now razor-sharp, the instructor barks out an order for the class to grab their gear. While our boy stretches his screaming muscles, dead set on not looking like a fool, the blacksmith zeroes in on boosting his stamina. He blasts off into another sprint, and during the push, he finally feels the ridiculous power of the black bracelet he just forged. The system screen flashes the explosive gravity skill, an item that devours mana and transforms it into crushing weight to condition the body. With that intense pressure overloading his muscles, our MC's stats instantly leap by a full 5 points. Abruptly, the professor's roar shatters his concentration, demanding the boy halt his run and get to the center of the arena. Playing the gravity to his advantage, the kid kills the weight skill in a blink and launches into a flawless backflip. He sticks the landing with style. Blown away by his agility, the master actually compliments the freshman's physical condition. He even admits he was totally expecting some scrawny nerd. With a blade in hand, the old-timer tells the blacksmith to take a couple of practice swings. It's a pop quiz to gauge his fighting style. Gripping the hilt, the young man quietly complains to himself. He's convinced the heavy bracelet is going to completely wreck his movements and throw off his balance. Then, with zero warning, the professor attacks. He unleashes a sharp strike to test the rookie's reaction time. On pure instinct, the boy's blade shoots up, parrying the blow effortlessly. The move leaves the master shocked by his perfect form. In the stands, other students are whispering that the attack seemed kinda sluggish. They chalk it up to him being gassed from the brutal run. But internally, the instructor is losing his mind. He recognizes that this kid's technique is dangerously close to the flawless perfection of a seasoned war veteran. Desperate not to look bad, the old-timer shoves forward with a forced counter, claiming the kid is moving too recklessly. With a savage twist, the master disarms the freshman, sending his sword spiraling through the air and ending the spar on the spot. His boots digging into the sand, the blacksmith kills his momentum and, with a look of sheer boredom, analyzes his own moves. Across from him, the buff old-timer lowers his practice sword and stares at the student with a flicker of genuine awe in his eyes. Completely baffled, our MC realizes the instructor was actually terrified by the skills of a simple tech student. No longer able to bite his tongue, the master bluntly asks what kind of monster taught the boy how to fight like that. To keep his past life under wraps, the kid cooks up a weak excuse, saying he learned everything from watching hero clips on the internet. But in his head, the blacksmith is picturing a scruffy old beggar, a swordmaster, who taught him everything he knew in exchange for booze. Back in the day, the kid paid for his training with a promise to forge free weapons for the old gambling addict. Back in the now, the professor looks absolutely stunned, not falling for the online video story for even a second. Keen on polishing this uncut gem, the old-timer offers him a letter of recommendation for a high-level body control class. With the letter clutched in his hand, the boy thanks him for the opportunity, his mind already locked on the new department that could finally solve his stamina issues for good. Inside the martial arts building, a robed old man is absolutely demolishing some cocky student. The moment our MC lays eyes on the furious geezer, he gets instant recognition. It's the hero known as Swordbreaker, Ma Guangsu. Connecting the dots, the kid realizes that this deadbeat former client from his past life is now a tough-as-nails professor at Babel. Wiping his hands clean, the bearded man snaps, asking who the intruder is, and the blacksmith steps up, letter in hand. At that moment, a blonde student leans in and whispers to the master that this newcomer is the #1 prodigy of the tech department. Completely unfazed by his reputation, the old-timer scans the kid's build from top to bottom. He declares that he looks weak. With a sarcastic smirk, the old man asks if the blacksmith is really that desperate to become his student. Pointing to the arena floor, the professor calls for a sudden death match against the blonde kid. He promises to take the freshman on if he can win. By the rules he lays out, all it takes is one single, clean strike. The blonde dude strikes a confident fighting stance. At the master's signal and a loud shout, the battle begins. Our MC just lowers his weapon, his posture completely relaxed. As he watches the face-off, the old man realizes what's happening. The boy is using an expert technique to eliminate all muscle tension, which to anyone else just looks like he's leaving himself wide open. The golden-haired hotshot comes barreling in, all aggressive power, his hands clawing for a direct grab. Watching from the side, the professor just scoffs under his breath, absolutely despising cocky fighters who think they can win with cheap mind games. In a single, fluid motion, the blacksmith weaves right under his opponent's outstretched arm, leaving the guy to snatch nothing but air. He masterfully hijacks the senior's own momentum, pivoting on his heel to materialize behind the blonde in a literal flash. With one surgically placed push, the kid completely shatters the upperclassman's stance, whose eyes blow wide, utterly blindsided by the raw power behind the gentle-looking shove. With zero chance to recover, the blonde does a full-on faceplant into the wooden floor. The match was over in a single second. A faint shimmer on his wrist reveals the secret. He triggered the black bracelet at the last possible instant, multiplying the inertia of the fall. The upperclassman slides across the floor like a sack of bricks until he smacks against the wall, utterly defeated and publicly humiliated. Sporting a savage grin, our main character drips with irony as he asks if that was maybe a little too quick for him. His gaze then drills into the professor. He's come to collect on their deal, demanding his rightful place in the martial arts class. Having no time for an audience, the old master immediately boots the other students, barking at everyone to clear the dojo now. Radiating pure swagger, the blacksmith twists the knife, suggesting that maybe he should be the one to teach the master's failed student a thing or two. Seething from the public humiliation, the old man concedes that a first-year dismantling his top fighter with pure technique is about to ignite a firestorm of gossip throughout the academy. Our boy just agrees it's a terrible look, adding that the blonde needs to seriously grind if he wants to avoid another beatdown. Abruptly, the defeated student springs to his feet, eyes sparkling with admiration, and thanks him for the thrashing, claiming it was a much-needed life lesson. Utterly mortified by his own pupil's idiocy, the professor just facepalms. He yells at the blacksmith to get lost, guaranteeing his spot is secure. But our MC isn't finished. He pulls the old man aside, insisting they have an urgent, private matter to discuss. Cut to the empty training court, where the old master tells the boy to finally show him this supposed secret technique. In less than a blink, the blacksmith explodes forward, his raw, deadly speed so intense it cracks the floorboards. Caught completely off guard, the professor throws up a hand, blocking the devastating strike on nothing but pure, unfiltered survival instinct. With the blade frozen in midair, The kid admits the entire attack hinges 100% on the element of surprise. Blunt and critical, the old master praises the concept, but rips into the execution, calling it unforgivably sloppy. Dripping with arrogance, the master boasts that, if anyone had dared to teach him such garbage, he would have personally snapped the instructor's arms. Unfazed, the young man vows he will forge a body, tough enough to handle the technique's raw power in the future. Switching gears, the boy brings up his spot in the class again, earning a long, defeated sigh from the exhausted veteran. Satisfied that the deal is done, the blacksmith offers a quick bow and exits the gym without a single look back. Alone on the court, the old man can't help but smirk, amused by the sheer audacity and talent of that brazen kid. Outside, the boy is walking calmly when a ridiculously loud shout rips through the hallway, demanding his attention. To absolutely no one's surprise, the same blonde he just clowned materializes down the hall, asking if he's heading out already. With his arm held out, the senior offers a fancy-looking envelope, sealed with red wax, to our main character. One glance is all it takes for the blacksmith to recognize it. It's the VIP invitation from the nobles that Erica had been trying to give him. The blonde, then, warns him that the group is full of arrogant snobs but admits it's a golden ticket for a freshman. Then, with a surprisingly sincere smile, his rival thanks him for the earlier beatdown, explaining the invitation is his way of showing gratitude for the lesson. A little awkwardly, our guy accepts the gift and thanks the dude he just demolished for the completely unexpected gesture. Resuming his walk, the young man mentally runs through his list of extra classes, all focused on hardening his body and sharpening his defense. Deep in thought about finalizing his schedule with enchanting classes, he zones out and ends up walking straight into a girl with glasses. With lightning-fast reflexes, our boy snags the girl's arms, saving her from a nasty faceplant on the stone floor. Her eyes go wide, but she's not looking at him. Her gaze is laser-focused on his equipment as she asks if he forged it himself. Thrown off by her intense reaction, the kid flips the question back at her, wanting to know what the big deal is, if the weapon is his own creation. Vibrating with excitement, the girl practically begs him to let her apply an enchantment to it, just as the system dings, confirming a bond with someone named Lee Claude. In a flash of memory from his past life, the blacksmith recognizes that name. She's a living legend, the one who could elevate any weapon to a mythical tier with her insane spells. Stunned by his own absurd luck, the MC realizes he just hit the jackpot by literally running into the department's greatest ever prodigy. Completely lost in her own world, the nerdy girl starts muttering complex magic formulas, all while our boy just calmly takes a bite out of a sandwich. Abruptly, the girl starts to panic, pulling at her own hair, and the blacksmith asks, startled, if the enchantment went wrong. Looking like a total maniac, the enchanter tells him the problem is the complete opposite. The ore's compatibility is so perfect it's unreal, and staring at a universe of magical possibilities, she completely short-circuits, overwhelmed by which formula to even try. The kid just cracks a smirk, telling her to take all the time she needs, which only makes her mental breakdown even worse. He casually opens his pack, revealing a massive flex. He's sitting on an entire stash of the super rare material. With her eyes sparkling and steam practically puffing from her ears, the genius nerd looks like she might actually combust from pure, unadulterated happiness. But then, the entire vibe shifts. A dude with a nasty scowl materializes, aggressively barking out, "Who the hell are you?" Still buzzing, Lee introduces herself as a third-year senior, totally gushing over the freshman's god-tier forging talent. Cold and dismissive, the nobody tells our blacksmith to shut his mouth and follow him for a private conversation. With zero time for bullies, our boy doesn't even bother to stand, bluntly firing back if he's just Erica's little lapdog. Enraged, the senior slams the table, roaring at the kid to get on his feet before he gets publicly humiliated and beaten down right there in the cafeteria. Dripping with arrogance, the guy demands a formal apology for shredding the sacred invitation from Lady Erica Inu. Wearing a look of cosmic boredom, our MC retorts that the clan's own heiress was the one who ripped up that worthless piece of paper. To twist the knife, the blacksmith lands a critical hit, guessing this moron is just salty because he never got an invitation himself. The kid presses on, asking if Erica actually sent him, or if this lackey is just acting like a needy puppy all on his own. Shook by the verbal smackdown, Lee flinches back, feeling the raw, murderous intent radiating from the furious upperclassman. Realizing just how childish this guy is, the nerd adjusts her glasses, her fear completely evaporating in the face of this ridiculous spectacle. Humiliated before the whole school, the bully unleashes a primal scream, calling the blacksmith decadent trash. Having lost all emotional control, the guy summons a storm of dark magic, manifesting dozens of lethal daggers in midair, all aimed at the rookie. Completely unfazed, our boy just sighs, lamenting how Babel is swarming with arrogant, mentally fragile, rich kids. As the magical assault closes in, the kid remains perfectly still, not a single muscle twitching, his expression like solid stone. Without warning, a horrifying dark silhouette erupts from the pavement, flooding the crowded campus street with a macabre energy. With a terrifying shriek, the shadow entity charges forward, tearing through the magic daggers, as if they were made of nothing but cheap paper. The cocky senior is completely engulfed by the darkness, sent flying by the brutal impact of the gloomy girl's giant crow. From a safe distance, our blacksmith instantly analyzes the attack, realizing the complex spell wasn't just mana, it was a murderous illusion. Sprawled on the ground and eating dirt, the bully gasps for air, having no clue where that devastating counterattack even came from. Stroking his chin, our MC just shrugs, putting on a perfect act of total ignorance about what just went down. On the boy's back, the gluttonous iron affinity seal pulses with a blood-red light, siphoning the energy from the fallen weapons. A devilish grin spreads across his face as he feels his power surging from melting the enemy's daggers, confirming the taste of metal is priceless. Instantly, the blue system window appears, confirming that his iron-devouring ability just boosted the durability of his own explosive ring. To add the ultimate insult to injury, he channels the artifact's strength to kick the last useless dagger right at the downed senior's head. With a sickening thud, the weapon's hilt connects squarely with the fool's forehead, putting his lights out for good. Stepping over the human garbage in the middle of the path, our boy simply turns his back and walks away. He calls out to Lee, suggesting they continue their nerdy conversation somewhere a little less trashy. Totally stunned, the enchanter just pushes up her glasses and nods with a smile, as if an attempted murder hadn't just taken place. While they walk, the blacksmith asks the senior to recommend some good classes in her magic department. Beaming with pride, the nerd suggests the Ancient Enchantment course, promising the professor is brutal, but the class content is absolutely incredible. Left behind in the alley, the humiliated senior finally regains consciousness, cursing the entire world while nursing a killer headache. As he tries to pull himself together, he spots a female shadow approaching him with heavy, threatening footsteps. Recognizing the terrifying girl, the lackey stammers out the name Erika Ino. He is met with nothing but a glare of pure, concentrated hatred from the true master of the crow. Scrambling like a coward, the goon picks up the dagger from the ground, offering it as flimsy proof of the sneak attack he endured from the freshman. Without an ounce of pity, the Queen of Support coldly states that she will be reporting his utter incompetence directly to the clan's older brother. Drowning in sheer terror, the guy silently accepts his grim fate as the girl treats him like he doesn't even exist. She inspects the blacksmith's shattered blade, captivated by the intricate runes carved into the metal. Erika is stunned to realize the rookie has etched an Ananta confiscation enchantment onto the weapon, a design based on her very own formulas. Cutting to the principal's office, the forest evaluator officially signs the documents, rocketing the boy's magical aptitude straight to the prestigious E rank. Miles away from all the school bureaucracy, our MC gets jolted by a sudden system notification. A direct bond has just been forged with Erika now. Clutching his head, the kid instantly connects the dots. That gloomy psycho had been lurking in the shadows, watching the entire throwdown with that brain-dead lackey. He casually juggles the confiscated daggers, instantly sensing the trash-tier quality of the metal. This garbage is getting melted down, destined to fuel his black flame forging later on. Done with all the extra drama, our guy crashes into his seat, breathing a sigh of relief. It's finally time to dive into the long-awaited lecture on magic and runes. At the head of the class, before a massive blackboard, the professor clears his throat, commanding the room's attention to kick off his lecture. He dives into the limitations of engineering here at Babel. Turning to the students, he explains how metal's very form can be completely warped. It all hinges on how you manipulate the mana matrix. And to prove his point, a stone lifts off his desk, twisting and contorting midair. This, he declares, is the very principle that allows for such an insane variety of weapons. The old master's voice is firm. As blacksmiths, he insists, they must grasp the absolute full potential of the materials they wield. And today's practical lesson is all about that. Shape transformation. Starting with a basic iron ingot. The instructions are swift and clear. Manipulate your mana, carve a 5 centimeter deep engraving, and then the tricky part, restore it perfectly. The task catches our MC off guard. He realizes the professor actually gets magical refinement and locks in, eyes fixed on the 10-minute time limit. Panic ripples through the classroom. Other students are literally sweating buckets, stressing that the metal is completely stuck and won't revert back. No time to waste. Our blacksmith places his hands over the iron block, ready to get to work. Dripping with arrogance, the blonde rival smugly announces he's already aced the challenge. But our boy calls out his own completion at almost the exact same second. Impressed, the veteran professor praises their incredible speed. He immediately pushes the two prodigies onto the next level of the challenge. A holographic panel flickers to life, revealing a ridiculously complex matrix. The instructor tasks the duo with applying this new formula. A cynical smirk plays on the rich kid's face. He clocks the rookie's pace, absolutely convinced this next round is his. Upping the ante, the professor projects the final challenge, a mind-bending structure of twisted gears. Laser-focused, both competitors warp the raw metal. The blonde can already taste sweet victory, holding up his finished piece. The preppy rival boasts that his creation is flawless from every conceivable angle, but just to pop his bubble, the professor calls out Hans's name, his voice dead serious. Cutting right to the chase, the master commands the rich kid to revert the piece back to its original state. The guy is left totally baffled. The second he lays a hand on it, the so-called masterpiece warps and shatters, proof that the monomatrix was completely fried. Visibly disappointed, the old master explains that the iron couldn't take the strain. The forging method itself was fundamentally flawed from the get-go. Driving the lesson home, the veteran reiterates, you absolutely must understand the metal's potential before you even think about shaping it based on theory. If that altered matrix can't be restored, your equipment doesn't evolve, it just decays into useless junk. Frustrated but defeated, the rich kid vows to remember the lesson, while the master warns that this single principle defines the quality of all his future work. Eyes burning with rage, the blonde shoots a death glare at our MC, trying to figure out if his rival was in on this little secret all along. But in his jealous mind, our boy just got lucky, standing there like some clueless idiot who did absolutely nothing. Channeling his own mana, our blacksmith flawlessly reverts the iron block to its perfect original state, then coolly announces that the job is done. A wave of shock washes over the room. Whispers erupt as the class tries to figure out how this rookie just defied the fundamental rules they were taught. Completely intrigued by this display of talent, the old master asks the freshman to perform the transformation again, this time for everyone to see. A sly grin on his face, our MC whips the complex piece into shape in the blink of an eye, knowing he's been playing the professor this whole time. Confronted with the undeniable proof, the master finally gets the trick. He admits it was only possible because the ingot was tweaked with sensitive adjustments for newbies. Stunned by the kid's sheer genius, the old master silently admits to himself that he let a critical detail slip right past him. And just like that, an image flashes in our boy's mind. The legendary flame artisan, the absolute monster who first created this transformation formula. Even decades later, that theory is a legendary challenge for any blacksmith, representing the true soul of iron itself. Looking at the professor, the kid knows the formula is unbreakable. He can't help but find it hilarious that the old man ever doubted him. As the day winds down, the setting sun bathes the majestic academy in a warm, orange glow. With class wrapping up, the instructor dismisses everyone but asks the rookie to hang back for a second. As a prize for choosing his department, the master pulls out a slick-looking box and opens it, revealing a radiant red jewel inside. The system screen lights up, the crimson flame gem. It's a rare ranked item with the power to effortlessly liquefy mixed ores. Intrigued by this insane gift, our MC inspects the stone as the old man warns that absorbing its essence will permanently supercharge his flames. With a respectful nod, our guy thanks the old-timer for the assist, guaranteeing this item is going to be a total game-changer for his smithing. Seizing the moment, the veteran dangles an offer and asks if the freshman is down to join his elective. Without skipping a beat, the kid fires back a question, asking if the class delves into the origins of weapons, which totally catches the old man off guard. Playing it cool, the kid already knows the score. He's aware this is one of Babel's most lavishly funded classes. But here's the kicker. In his previous life, he never once heard this master's name, which signals a seriously grim future for the poor dude. Determined to rewrite fate, our blacksmith accepts the invitation on the spot, even as the professor warns him that his schedule is already jam-packed. With a smirk, the prodigy guarantees he's only taking 4 courses right now, so the math absolutely checks out. To lock it in, the two share a firm handshake, making their new partnership official. The instant they connect, the system yoinks the professor's affinity, revealing a fire-infused iron that can store immense heat internally. Later, in the solitude of his room, the kid slips into a deep meditation, contemplating that, if you can pull metal from people, then the body itself can be forged. According to fundamental magic theory, housing multiple elements in your veins creates a chaotic conflict, a death sentence for blacksmiths who rely on pinpoint precision. Gripping the jewel, he declares he's built different from the rest, because the suppressive mana shackling his body has already been obliterated. Thanks to this complete energy drain, his body is now primed to absorb the crimson essence like a bone-dry sponge. Locked in on his objective, he resolves to construct an internal mana circuit 100% devoted to pure, unadulterated fire. Deep in the absorption process, a crimson light erupts from his chest in a massive surge of power. Completely engulfed in flames, the blacksmith declares with raw fury. that he's going to reforge his own flesh and soul right here and now. A moment later, a successful ping from the system chimes, confirming his flame attribute has skyrocketed from a lowly F rank all the way to E+. Immediately after, the magical ability of body refinement activates, supercharging every single one of our MC's physical stats. In the depths of his mind, a painful memory claws its way to the surface, showing his own shattered body and a red-haired woman laughing down at him. In the flashback, the woman scoffs at him, asking if he's some kind of idiot for giving up, without even trying to use the materials, staring him right in the face. With that lesson seared into his very soul, the young man's eyes snap open, now dead set on using every single resource at his command. Glancing at the moon through the window, he vows to himself that this time, there will be absolutely no regrets. The next day, bright sunlight washes over Babel, and the instructor announces that today's class is all about putting the finishing touches on their crafted pieces. Dialing up the pressure, the old-timer tells everyone to pour their sweat and soul into delivering top-tier weapons to the campus. It's a brutal task. The students shift into overdrive, and the workshop explodes into a chaotic symphony of hammer strikes. Drenched in sweat, our blacksmith inspects his own swords, noting how his currently weak frame has left the blades riddled with misalignments. With his hammer in hand, he growls that in this second chance at life, he doesn't have the luxury of slacking off. Unleashing his raw strength, a blinding shower of sparks erupts with every punishing blow on the anvil. After the grueling work, the kid heaves a sigh of relief, thinking that the quick and dirty fix will have to suffice for now. As he surveys the rest of his weapons, he has to admit the clock has run out. There's no way he can perfect all the swords today. Logically, he understands that turning in a bunch of mediocre jobs would net him more funding from the school, but his craftsman's pride screams louder, compelling him to forge just one single sword, with absolute, flawless perfection. Suddenly, his mind goes utterly silent, and the sound of colossal, crashing waves begins to thunder in his ears. With an unfocused gaze, the boy recognizes this sound, the anthem of world-altering creation that only appears when he forges something truly legendary. Analyzing the completed sword, he realizes it's not just a temporary sharpness, but a lethal concept of cutting that has been branded onto the blade's very soul. On the glowing blue screen, the system celebrates the creation of the white light greatsword, proving the master's sheer force of will has transcended physical matter. Shrouded in a pure aura, the weapon is branded with a seal of high quality, cementing the freshman as a total anomaly at the academy. With a quick test swing of one of the ordinary swords, our MC finds the result acceptable for the time he put in. A confident smirk touches his lips as he feels his past life skills slowly flooding back. From across the room, the other students watch the boy's sheer talent in disbelief, and one of them seriously considers quitting the academy out of pure despair. Fast forward to Saturday morning, where the blacksmith is enjoying a well-deserved day off, scrolling on his phone in a trendy coffee shop. During their meetup, our Guy and Lee explain they want to witness enchanting techniques up close, so the nerdy upperclassman promises to lead him somewhere more private. Venturing far from the campus hub, the pair makes their way to an isolated area, with the girl joking that her magic secrets are not for just anyone's eyes. In front of a rustic workshop named Akakov, the two finally arrive at their clandestine destination. Pushing the heavy door open, the upperclassman announces her arrival into the cluttered space, filled with pots and tools hanging from the ceiling. The silver-haired woman whips her head around, scowling that she isn't deaf. Cutting right to the chase, the old master gets blunt, asking if our boy is the bookworm's boyfriend, only to get instantly shot down. During the introductions, his upperclassman hypes him up as this year's prodigy, but the old woman just scoffs, calling him fragile. Shaking off the insult, the master introduces herself as Helena, and our MC politely gives his name, but Helena has zero time for pleasantries. She tells the enchanter to get cracking, pointing out the mountain of backlogged orders. With a flick of her hand, the old smith gestures them over to the workspace. Our boy's eyes land on the hanging pots, and he immediately clocks the insane level of craftsmanship, and has to admit it, this old lady is a legit master, but the whole setup is throwing him off. Why would a legend like her be hiding out in some rundown tool shop? Trying to shift the mood, the bookworm shows him a palette loaded with vibrant colors, explaining it's all pure, ground-up mana stone. As he inspects the material, our MC notices the wild spectrum of colors and asks if their job is to repair busted magic formulas. A huge grin spreads across her face as she makes a finger gun, confirming he hit the bullseye. Leaning over the palette, she reveals, "This is the perfect hustle. You make bank and get to train your magic for free." Just then, brush in hand, she unleashes an intense golden glow, ready to channel its power. This is exactly why our MC came here. He remembers hearing that she's about to hit a major creative wall in the near future. In his past life, he saw her career completely implode, causing her to lose her standing and utterly bomb the Babel tests. Watching her work now, he instantly sees the core issue and knows exactly how to shatter that block for good. Seeing her intense concentration, our blacksmith recognizes that getting completely lost in your work like that is a rare gift in itself. Stepping away from the main action, our boy wanders through the gritty workshop and spots something intriguing tucked away in a corner. Curious, he analyzes a unique whetstone that resonates with magic circuits to produce some seriously wicked effects. His fingers are practically twitching with the urge. He imagines forging that white light once more, and Helena actually encourages him to give it a shot. Laying down a challenge, the old master tells the newbie to pick any piece of junk from the scrap pile. A sly smirk creeps onto our MC's face at the owner's chill vibe. Fired up by this high-tier tool, he decides it's time to put in some real work and test the magic stone. Without a second thought, he reaches into the pile and pulls out a totally ordinary kitchen knife. The shop owner's eyebrow shoots up, surprised by such a basic choice, asking if he's for real. Running a finger along the blade, our boy compliments its flawless balance, realizing whoever forged this knife is an absolute beast. With a blade, he selects a whetstone with perfectly balanced particles, ensuring the knife can handle the intense pressure of the sharpening process. Then, with a swift motion, the blacksmith draws the steel across the stone, letting out a crisp, clean sound that slices through the workshop's silence. Absolutely captivated by his insane technique, the old master can't help but grin, finding it hard to believe this kid is just some fresh-faced rookie. On the other side of the room, the bookworm throws her hands up in triumph, yelling that she's finally finished the enchantment. But as she spins around, she jumps, finding the owner looming right behind her, wearing that signature scowl. With a painful-looking pinch, Helena teases her, saying she tried to act all high and mighty in front of the new guy but ended up eating her words. Fed up with the girl's excuses, the old master barks, "Zip it," and sends her packing with a light smack to the head. Turning back to the workbench, Helena asks if the knife is finished, and our boy answers with a thoughtful expression. His eyes locked on the steel. The blacksmith admits it's the best he could do with what he had to work with, but he vows to deliver something even better next time. And with that, the owner unceremoniously boots them both out of the shop, literally pointing them to the curb. Out on the street, his upperclassman starts ranting about how rude the old lady was, but our boy is just taking it all in stride. Alone in the darkened workshop, the old master stands frozen, her gaze fixed on the gleaming knife he left behind. Out of nowhere, a dude in a sharp suit barges in, yelling and asking if his sister is deep in a forging session. Stone-faced, Helena tells the guy to chill and asks for the kitchen knife so she can handle some late orders. The guy starts whining that an elite swordmaster has no business playing chef, but his sister immediately tells him to mind his own business. In the middle of all this chaos, the buff guy finally spots the knife and snatches it off the bench. But when he sees the blade's ridiculously sharp edge, he asks if she'd been hitting the bottle while sharpening again, and is completely floored when she says she wasn't the one who did it. Stunned, the woman stammers out that it was a freshman, and the man in the suit's brain just blue screens. The old-timer drives the point home, his voice dead serious. A complete rookie from the academy delivered that flawless strike on Babel streets. Our MC just strolls on, cool as ever, as the big shot's brain practically short-circuits, scrambling to calculate the power level of this monster who just appeared on the scene. Later on, our boy figures out that the cranky, old lady was once a professor of metallurgy before she ditched it all to run this wild little shop. He gets curious, asking if some major drama went down for her to ditch her job, but the nerdy girl says everything seemed normal as far as she could tell. With a hand on his chin, the young man starts connecting the dots, remembering that this mass exodus of professors is what guts the department in the future, and now he's determined to dig into this whole mess. Switching gears, he asks about his own sword, and the upperclassman starts gushing about his impeccable foundation, admitting she can't spot a single mistake. Totally gassed up by the praise, the nerdy girl thanks him with a huge grin, only to get hit with a brutal reality check when he tells her she's way too rigid. The enchanter freezes in her tracks, totally lost, as the blacksmith lays it out cold. She just regurgitated a textbook method, playing everything by the book. Dropping some serious wisdom, our MC warns her that imagination is a creator's ultimate weapon, and she's nerfing her own talent for no good reason. Her eyes go wide as she snaps back, completely offended, thinking he's calling her stupid. Totally unfazed, the blacksmith just watches her little meltdown with a blank face. Refusing to back down, she shoves her glasses up the bridge of her nose and tells the rookie to listen up because her time is precious. Using a magic metaphor, she explains that forging is like chucking a stone into a lake, but enchanting is like etching the image of that sunken stone onto the water's surface. Then, for the grand finale, the metal fractures, and a crimson blade materializes, radiating a raw, murderous aura called the Crimson Lotus. Completely stunned, The nerdy girl can barely stammer out the names of the spells he used as the sword whistles through the air in one fluid arc. Just by looking at the weapon, she realizes the kid didn't just layer the power on the outside, he infused it into the equipment's very core. Glowing in the darkness, the blacksmith drops his secret. If one layer of magic is unstable, you just keep stacking more until the whole thing can handle the pressure. With a swift cut through the air, the boy shows how the mana erupts, violently, when the layers all fuse at the blade's edge. In that exact instant, the force of the unseen strike rips a hole straight through the spatial barrier, the shockwave making the surrounding trees shudder in its wake. The blade vomits out condensed killing intent, the Crimson Lotus simply melting away the resistance of space itself. He flashes a grin at the devastation, admitting it's not a standard enchantment, but who cares about the rules when it shatters the whole game? Sweating bullets in the face of such insane power, the upperclassman swallows hard, finally getting it. True geniuses forge their own absurd paths, even when they're terrified of messing up. Absolutely floored by the spectacle she just witnessed, the nerdy girl falls to her knees before the freshman, pleading to study the blade up close. Acting like a spoiled brat, the enchanter shakes the blacksmith, yelling that she'll recreate it flawlessly, and demanding to keep the weapon, no matter what. He barely bats an eye, handing over the blade but insisting she take the black ingots too. She absolutely erupts with joy, literally jumping into the air and shouting that she loves this freshman with all her soul. On the way back to campus, our boy hears that classic system ding inside his head. On a blue screen, a level 1 connection with Creator L is confirmed, and he can't help but notice how young she looks in this timeline. Inside the packed arena, his thoughts turn grim, replaying the fatal showdown between Mad Dog and the Demon God. And just then, right behind him, the emo girl is shadowing his every move, so the MC finally asks her what her deal is. With a completely deadpan expression, Erica bluntly states she's just following him and will bounce if he tells her to. He just shrugs, allowing her to watch from a distance, and the rookie silently agrees to the terms. Tired of this conversation, the blacksmith just sighs, and decides to dip into the gym to watch the fights. On his system interface, the infinity stones for both girls are glowing, signaling top-tier, rare materials. In the center of the massive stage, a voice booms from the speakers, welcoming all of Babel's first years. An incredibly hyped announcer, Lanfang, introduces herself as the youngest professor in the entire martial arts department. Trying to get the crowd fired up, she screams for some noise and announces the arrival of the day's titans. Under the spotlights, she first calls out the legendary fourth-year veteran, who's famous for forging S-rank heroes. The whole stadium trembles as the undisputed champion, an A-rank hero, steps into the ring with an unbreakable stance. Hailed as the Holy Swordmaster, this girl has already conquered the Tower of Heroes. With an ice-cold stare, the living legend, Aria Myers, announces her name, and the crowd goes absolutely insane. Through all the roaring, our MC cracks a smirk and mutters that he's finally found his target. And to face her, the system announces the heir of the Fire Spear. It's the third year's big arena match, and our blacksmith is laser-focused, breaking down the challenger's every move. And then he walks in the infamous Mad Dog Yimsanga, a rising star legendary for his pure, unadulterated fury. They don't waste a second. Steel smashes against steel in a brutal explosion, sending a shower of sparks flying everywhere. Yimsanga refuses to back down, whipping his flaming spear into a frenzy and unleashing a non-stop barrage of savage attacks. But the blonde champion is pure ice. She stops his insane charge cold, using nothing but the hilt of her holy blade. The impact is colossal. A fiery shockwave blasts across the arena, throwing both fighters backward. With a lightning-fast backflip, the spearman creates distance, hunting for even the smallest opening in her guard. From the stands, our MC clocks it instantly. The gear the Academy supplied the spearman with is absolute garbage. His eyes narrowing, the blacksmith realizes the core issue isn't the guy's technique, it's the weapon itself. That's the fatal flaw. In a single, invisible slash, Arya's sword shatters the tip of his spear into 1,000 pieces, ending the fight on the spot. Sheathing her blade with effortless grace, the champion gives her rival a nod of respect and declares that the show is over. The announcer's voice booms over the speakers, confirming the Swordmaster's victory as the crowd goes absolutely wild. The announcer then gets a little awkward, explaining that the loser had to dip out early for personal reasons. Wiping a bead of sweat from her forehead, the champion confesses that taking on the number 4 rank right out of the gate was seriously tough. To fill the dead air, the professor kicks off a Q&A session, just as the spearman storms furiously towards the locker room. Hands jammed in his pockets, our MC can feel the murderous aura radiating off the upperclassman. Yeah, the guy is seriously ticked. Deciding this is his cue, the kid turns to leave, but Erica calls out, asking if he's not going to watch the rest of the matches. He answers without turning around. Not really my kind of entertainment. leaving the girl completely blindsided. She thinks he's annoying but is secretly relieved he wasn't there to suck up to her brother, though she can't figure out his sour mood. Out of the corner of her eye, Erica notices that strange freshman is already getting a ton of hostile stares. Down in the ring, the blonde hero also has her eyes glued to the exit, tracking the boy as he leaves the arena. A glint of inspiration flashes in her eyes as she wonders if that rookie might be the very person she's been searching for. The scene shifts to the defeated spearman, who's fuming alone on a park bench near the arena, trying to get his head straight. Strolling up casually, our MC finally comes face to face with the legendary Mad Dog. A memory from the future flashes through the blacksmith's mind, the image of this hero sacrificing himself to kill the demon lord. It hits like a punch to the gut. To break the silence, the kid goes straight for the throat, asking bluntly how he's enjoying the replay of his own humiliating defeat. With a face like stone, the spearman acknowledges the freshman's skill in tracking him down to his hiding spot so damn fast. Taking a closer look, the upperclassman finally recognizes him and asks what the so-called forging genius could possibly want. A casual smirk plays on the boy's lips as he calls the reaction a bit over the top, saying he just wanted to have a little chat. Mad Dog's patience has completely evaporated. He tells the freshman to get the hell out of his face, immediately. Seething with uncontrolled rage, the fighter snarls that he despises weaklings, and he won't be giving a second warning. He launches into an arrogant tirade about how he loathes untalented hacks who have to rely on others to do their fighting for them. The blacksmith remains perfectly still, silently absorbing the verbal assault as the guy spits out the word blacksmith with utter contempt. Rummaging through his memories, our MC thinks that, compared to the monster he'll become in the future, this is actually him being polite. Faced with his rival's pure aggression, the kid knows talking is pointless and begins to channel his mana. There's murder in the upperclassman's eyes as he realizes this punk rookie has absolutely no intention of backing down. In the quiet park, cold and calculating, the boy raises a single finger and says he's about to drop one simple truth bomb. In a heavy voice, he declares that the legendary legacy of the Flame Spear is destined to die in an idiot's hands. Driven mad by the insult, Mad Dog shoots forward like a cannonball, winding up a punch overflowing with destructive energy. Without so much as blinking, the blacksmith activates his steel affinity mark to brace for the incoming impact. With a thunderous boom, they collide, and the freshman catches the flaming fist with his bare palm. The upperclassman is utterly stunned, his mind short-circuiting as he sees the rookie block a mana-infused punch. He re-evaluates the kid in an instant, admitting to himself that the title of top student clearly wasn't just for show. Drawing on even more power, Mad Dog causes the lingering flames to surge violently, unleashing the spear's true, terrifying power. With a furious battle cry, he lunges forward, swearing this is the freshman's final moment. An inferno erupts, and a massive pillar of fire tears through the park, engulfing everything. When the smoke finally clears, the blacksmith is just standing there with a bored sigh, completely unharmed. The upperclassman is totally bewildered, unable to process how his own flames didn't even touch his enemy. And in that moment of shock, the horrifying realization dawns on him. The fighter clocks that his flame energy just got jacked and thrown right back at him by a fist literally engulfed in fire. Our boy is about to show him who the real master of the Crimson Element is. Clenching his jaw, the spear wielder shoots the rookie a look that's pure psycho. On the verge of breaking under this crushing purple aura, our guy realizes his opponent has officially lost the last marble he had left. Flashing back through his memories, the blacksmith connects the dots. The legendary massacre of the fire sect went down for this exact reason, a complete and utter lack of control. Mid-air, the upperclassman unleashes a savage spinning kick, but our MC is already running the numbers, realizing his own defensive buff is about to shatter. Since talking it out like normal people was a total bust, the kid decides the only path forward is to absolutely demolish this psycho in a head-on clash. With a laser-focused gaze and a rock-solid fist, the blacksmith intercepts Mad Dog's assault, poised to dish out his own brand of carnage with nothing but his bare hands. The fighter Jake Myers smacks down the flaming punch, making it crystal clear who's really in charge. Absolutely livid at the interruption, the spearman demands to know if this blondie has any clue who the prodigy from the tech department even is. Shrugging off the threat, Jake tells the blacksmith to bounce, like, right now. His voice dropping to a low warning, the blonde tells the kid to zip it and not forget the deal they made. Alone in the park later, the upperclassman takes a minute to cool off, instantly regretting how he nearly dragged the name of his martial art through the mud. While they're walking, Jake starts laying into him, saying, "Our boy would have been toast if he hadn't shown up when he did." Barely paying attention, the blacksmith tells the blonde to cut the theatrics and asks what his whole deal is anyway. Out of nowhere, the system screen pings, confirming a hazardous connection has been established with Mad Dog and unlocking a new skill, affinity extraction. A plan starts forming in the kid's head. He needs to figure out how to boost his friendship level with that psycho so he can literally leech his powers. Desperate to change the subject, Jake compliments the freshman's guts and asks if his hand is even still attached. Full of cocky energy, the blondie flexes his own hands, boasting that they're the toughest part of his body. With a totally sus look, our MC blows past the joke and cuts right to the chase about the guy's sister. With zero hesitation, the boy puts his partner on blast, demanding to know what in the world he said to Aria Myers back at the arena. Instantly panicking, the blonde starts scrambling and desperately tries to deflect, calling his own sister a nosy pain in the neck. But the blacksmith, ice cold and calculating, just lays out the facts, stating that the blonde hero was showing some major interest in him during the event. Flashing back to the fight, we see the champion, overhearing all the chatter about the blacksmith who could command fire. Back in the stands, totally satisfied with the rumors swirling around, our guy reveals that catching the living legend's eye was the entire game plan from the start. Totally desperate, Jake warns him that he's messing with forces he can't comprehend, because he has zero clue who his sister truly is. Completely unfazed by the threat, our MC fires back, calling the so-called hero stubborn and a total schemer. Looking a little guilty, the blondie finally drops his guard and admits that, yeah, that description is pretty on the money. In his mind, the blacksmith flashes back to the real reason he holds such a deep-seated grudge against that untouchable woman. In the grim future he came from, the celebrated, holy swordmaster was the last shining beacon of hope for all of humanity. But then, on one catastrophic day, her divine blade just shattered into a million pieces, proving it was never anything special to begin with. The moment that sword fell, the hero straight up vanished without a trace, leaving the entire world teetering on the edge of the abyss. And in the savior's place, the dreaded demon god of extinction emerged, brandishing a sword forged from the very essence of evil. Snapping back to reality, our guy concludes that her angelic face right now is just a mask for some seriously dark secrets. With that mission checked off the list, the boy turns to leave and says he's heading back to his dorm. Totally bewildered, the blonde is left standing there, asking if he said something wrong. All of a sudden, Jake's phone buzzes. It's a message from his sister, demanding that he keep playing her little messenger boy. Breaking out in a cold sweat, the blondie can feel the pressure of that blonde viper tightening the leash around his neck. The next morning, our MC is completely drained from yesterday's showdown, face planting on his desk in the classroom. The classroom door bangs open, and in glides the eccentric Professor Lizdover, riding a floating cart with an absurd amount of flair. This old-school dude in a top hat announces he'll be heading up the attribute refinement course for the next 2 weeks. From his totally bizarre getup, our guy instantly pegs him as the infamous professor, who's known for being an absolute lunatic. Before diving into the theory, the old man announces he's about to drop the grades for the last practical assignment. Turning to the freshman, the professor says his weapon still doesn't have a final grade logged in the system. Just yet, a little lost in all the red tape, the blacksmith looks up and asks the professor to break down what's going on. With a playful grin, the old-timer reveals the sword was so masterfully crafted that it got sent directly to the second-year auction. His mind racing, the boy immediately suspects that the snobby vice principal is pulling some strings to mess with him again. But to put the student at ease, the professor guarantees that if this was some kind of trap, Professor Kim would have already shut that nonsense down. With all eyes on him, the old man in the top hat makes a grand announcement. Today's lesson is getting laser-focused on one thing, residual mana. But to everyone's shock, the master announces he's bringing in a special assistant, and who storms through the door looking like he just ate a lemon. Mad Dog himself. Our MC is completely blindsided, wondering what the hell this hot-headed upperclassman is even doing here. The two immediately lock eyes, practically shooting daggers at each other. Completely oblivious to the lethal tension, the old professor just tells the assistant to take the center stage. Then he unleashes a torrent of technical theory all over the blackboard. The breakdown is simple. Leftover mana from forging is split into 2 distinct types. The first is your standard kind, which gets channeled directly into the weapon. The second category is independent mana. This stuff literally soaks up or generates its own power from the surrounding environment. Tapping his cane for emphasis, the master hammers home the point that the independent type is an absolute nightmare to command. But if you can tame it, you create the most legendary equipment imaginable. Wasting no time, the old man orders the spearman to demonstrate the flow of charged mana. While prepping the live demo for the entire class, the old professor stresses that the fire element is absurdly volatile, and mastering its residue is a feat only a handful of absolute madmen can pull off. In the heart of the room, the upperclassman flawlessly twirls his spear, conjuring 3 perfect, blazing rings of fire. It's a showcase of impeccable control. Seething with jealousy, the rich blondie gripes from the back that he can barely keep his own fire contained inside a furnace. With a taunting grin, the professor urges the class to milk this opportunity with their elite assistant for all the knowledge it's worth. Then comes the official assignment. The professor challenges the class to forge anything they want, using only the residual energy from the spearman's flames. With a final wave, the master orders everyone to gear up and march immediately to the workshop. Spotting a golden chance, Hans makes a beeline for the upperclassmen, trying to suck up and snag some exclusive pointers. Ice cold, Mad Dog tells the preppy kid to get lost, leaving the guy utterly dumbfounded. As the classroom empties out, the spearman blanks the rest of the students and calls out our blacksmith's name with a dead serious tone. In the now empty hallway, the upperclassman leans in close, bluntly demanding to know what the hell this rookie knows about his past. He spills that his family's ultimate technique requires mastering 6 simultaneous flames just to be considered a true master. His eyes narrow, saying he witnessed the freshman deflect 3 of his fire rings without even breaking a sweat. He questions if our MC is hiding his true power level. Thinking fast, our MC decides to drop an absolute truth bomb. He flips the script, asking if the upperclassman has ever successfully tapped into the 7th level of flames. The spearman just freezes on the spot, completely floored. He's unable to process how this kid just exposed his most guarded secret. As cool as ever, our blacksmith explains he detected a grotesque flaw in his mana flow, back when they clashed in the park. He points out that instead of unleashing the flame's raw potential, the guy is letting all that power just hemorrhage away. Backed into a corner, Mad Dog asks if the rookie actually knows how to plug this miserable leak. A confident smirk spreads across our MC's face as he confirms he holds the perfect solution to the upperclassman's little problem. Desperate for a fix, the spearman demands a technical explanation on the spot. But our boy decides to string him along a little longer. Not giving away the secrets for free, the blacksmith simply turns his back and warns him his consulting fee is going to be steep. Holding up a single finger, our MC lays down rule number 1. He expects to be compensated fairly for any valuable info he shares. For his second condition, he tells the upperclassmen to dial back the hostile attitude and to come to him for help whenever his training hits a dead end. Applying maximum pressure, our MC lays out his final ultimatum. He tells him to accept the terms before they even set foot inside the workshop. With his fists clenched, Mad Dog is forced to eat humble pie, and he accepts the freshman's outrageous conditions without hesitation. Satisfied with his rival's submission, our blacksmith cracks a victorious smile. Then he challenges the spearman to prove his worth in the forge. Inside the sweltering workshop, the other students are already whispering. All of them are watching the bizarre dynamic unfold between the freshman and the elite assistant. Completely dialed in, our boy slams the oars straight into the fire. He doesn't even bother with a blueprint, showing everyone he's on a whole other level. Without any fear of the scorching heat, our MC mixes the fire and dark ores with his bare hands, hitting a precise 7-to-3 ratio, right in the heart of the inferno. Watching from a distance, some random student can't wrap his head around the logic. He even calls our blacksmith a noob for just letting the mana seemingly evaporate. But completely unbothered, our boy continues to crank up the blistering heat. He pushes it further and further, until the raw elemental power starts to literally bleed from the stone. Juggling the flames on one side and the escaping energy on the other, he forces the material to absorb all that raw power in one massive gulp. Stunned by the sophisticated move, the professor in the top hat whispers that the kid is actually executing the firepower displacement technique. A smirk plays on our MC's lips. He knows that to everyone else, this whole process looks totally normal. But with his eyes glued to the forge, it finally clicks for Mad Dog. He realizes something far more profound is happening in those flames. In a stunning display, the freshman unleashes raw flame outwards while corralling the volatile darkness at his core, forging the 2 clashing energies into a flawless sphere. Watching this impossible feat, it all clicks for the spearman. A quiet gasp escapes him as he whispers, finally grasping the solution that's been eluding him. A memory flashes, his sect master's voice, cold and absolute, demanding he purge the secondary mana because it was poisoning his primary flame. Suddenly, the senior gets it. He sees the wall that's been holding him back. If he can channel that clashing energy, just like the kid did, he'll finally break through his limits. The weight of this new understanding hits him hard. The spearman summons 6 rings of pure black fire, admitting this twisted method was the only way he could ever hope to control his power. He turns to the freshman, his tone deadly serious, warning him that the 5 black lotuses he's mastered are already on a whole other level compared to the Academy's top dogs. But then comes the gut punch. He reveals that if his rank slips even once, he's stripped of his title as heir for good. No second chances. Our blacksmith just shrugs, telling the guy to try channeling both types of mana the old-fashioned way. Just one time. The second he tries, the black and red flames clash violently. They short-circuit, triggering a catastrophic blast that nearly blows the entire training room to smithereens. In a panic, The spearman shouts that he's completely lost control of his darkness attribute, griping that the inspector is showing up the next day, of all days. The blacksmith's mind races. If this dude loses his heir status, he'll get kicked out of the academy, completely derailing our MC's master plan. Not wasting a second, our boy claps a hand on his shoulder, his voice low and intense. How far are you willing to go to keep your title? Mad Dog's eyes flare with raw determination. He looks back and says, I'll do anything. With a nod of approval, the kid pulls up his system window. It shows the newly extracted affinity, a black stone, pulsing with a sinister red glow. Our MC flicks the orb of energy into the air and issues a single command, transform the weapon. Minutes later, inside a VIP training hall, the spearman scoffs at the freshman, telling him to quit gawking at the high-tech scenery like a tourist. Our boy completely ignores the attitude. He casually compliments the room, then slaps his hand on the control panel. Time to change the settings a bit. With a single touch, the entire room flickers and reforms, transforming into the iconic dojo of the Flamegate sect. The senior smirks, a chill in his voice. He breathes in the familiar air and boasts that he hardly ever bothered using this particular simulation. The black orb materializes in our MC's palm. Right then and there, he starts forging a brand new training weapon from scratch. A blinding light erupts. When it fades, the stone has morphed into a sleek spear shaft, perfectly customized for this radical new combat style. The system screen flashes a notification. Masterpiece quality. The eternal war between his fire and darkness has finally achieved perfect synergy. The spearman holds the newly forged weapon, which has split into two short spears. He just stares at them, dumbfounded, asking if he's really expected to fight with these. Ignoring him, the blacksmith lays down the new combat law. His left hand must channel the black flames, while his right hand unleashes the pure dark energy. Without hesitation, Mad Dog gives it a shot. The twin-colored flames erupt from the spear tips, combining into a single, deadly blast. But during his first rotation, the mana flow goes haywire. The lethal energy sputters into a pathetic flicker, forcing him to jump back. Frustrated and bewildered, he yells out, "What the hell? Why did the power just die on me like that?" Our boy calmly explains that while multiple attributes are supposed to blend, the senior's internal energy is a complete and utter disaster. He pinpoints the problem. The spearman has spent his entire life trying to suppress his darkness, and now that mental block is physically sabotaging his every move. The only cure? Our MC orders him to forget everything else, focus solely on the custom-made weapon, and drill the new technique over and over again. 3 grueling hours tick by. Inside the holographic dojo, the spearman is still a blur of motion, drenched in sweat, and pushing himself to the absolute limit. Observing from the sidelines, our MC can't help but be impressed. Mad Dog's ability to adapt is honestly terrifying. He can see it clearly. The spearman's breathing, his muscle contractions, everything is starting to sync up perfectly with the new fighting style. The blacksmith tracks the flow of mana, watching it course through the fighter's body before erupting in a clean, controlled burst from his palms. Finally, annoyed by the constant staring, the spearman drops his stance and asks, "Is there a problem with my form or something?" Playing it cool, the kid brushes it off as just collecting data for his project, telling him not to let the progress go to his head. The freshman just laughs, saying that a nobody like him would never hand over gear this good without running some diagnostics first. Then, in the middle of their break, our MC changes gears completely, hitting him with a loaded question out of the blue. Planting his spear in the ground, he asks point blank if there's some secret reason why the senior is so fixated on claiming the title of heir. Slightly taken aback, Mad Dog answers without missing a beat. "Because my master commanded it. That's the only reason." With unwavering loyalty, he declares that he is nothing more than a faithful student, simply carrying out the duty assigned to him by his sect. On the wall of the virtual dojo, holographic images appear, showing the legendary S-rank hero who took the orphaned spearman in and raised him as his own son. Watching this, our blacksmith immediately understands the terrifying truth. The master has complete psychological dominion over this fighter. A flashback hits our MC, a memory of seeing this very spearman cast aside like a piece of garbage. He's determined not to let history repeat itself. The senior finally confronts him directly, demanding to know what could possibly motivate a complete unknown to go this far to help him. A top dog from Babel stares into the void, his face a mask of stone, replaying visions of a future scorched to ash. He remembers the relentless tide of the 6 demon realms, the map of his world slowly devoured by a sea of chaos. From those cursed waters, nightmarish abominations crawled out, consuming millions. Facing that coming apocalypse, he coldly declares his plan. He's walking into every single one of those dark dimensions himself. And for that, he's going to need some components, sharp, living ones. He turns to the spearman, a dangerous glint in his eye, and says if the guy can conquer the flame gate, He'll become the unbreakable shield he needs on the front lines. The blacksmith smirks, admitting this isn't some act of kindness. This is a transaction, and it has to be profitable for both of them. Mad Dog's hand tightens on his spear. He gets it. In the world of Babel, nothing is ever free. With a fire igniting in his soul, the spear wielder swears an oath to march into hell itself for the kid, but only if he helps him seize his birthright. Fully confident in his scheme, the MC lays out the terms. The senior's only job is to hammer out their victory, while he handles the dirty work of slaughtering the demon god. To seal their pact, the kid flicks the magic stone into the air, declaring the deal is done. No takebacks. Instantly, a crimson light erupts in the blacksmith's eyes, triggering the resonance of the glowing black artifact. Bathed in that scarlet glow, the system confirms a brutal transfer of affinity, heralding the birth of Mad Dog's terrifying new power. The next day, the scene snaps to the official martial arts hall, the air thick with the anxiety of the assembled students. Master Kang Han-won steps forward, greeting the young heir. "It's been a while," he says, a thin smile on his face. The spearman's eyes narrow, scanning the nobodies lurking in the background. Who are the clowns? Here to watch the show? The instructor doesn't bother lying. They're disciples of the Supreme Master, sent to get a front row seat for your duel. Mad Dog's glare turns to ice. The next leader hasn't been chosen yet, he snarls, so they better learn to keep their mouths shut. The older master offers a fake apology, dripping with sarcasm, and asks if they can just get on with the evaluation. But Mad Dog isn't playing his game. He flat out refuses, stunning his overconfident rival. In a voice that brooks no argument, he throws down the gauntlet, demanding to take the trial of the 7 rings to prove his damn worth right here and now. From the shadows, the architect of this little ambush just smirks. If the kid wants to dig his own grave, he's more than happy to help him bury himself later. The official rule is absolute. Pass the 7 rings, and you earn the right to face an instructor one-on-one. No rules, no mercy. The old master just scoffs, accusing the kid of trying to back out. What's wrong? Scared you might actually have to fight? Out of patience, the spearman rewrites the rules on the spot. This is no longer a test. It's a war for territory and power. He demands a final showdown in the circle, spears in hand. Without a flicker of fear, Mad Dog accepts the challenge and calls the instructor into the ring. The old man just cackles at the sight of his dual-bladed weapon, calling the custom gear a piece of primitive trash. But then, with a savage burst of speed, the veteran unleashes a searing, fiery assault that catches the master completely off guard. Enraged, the instructor roars, reminding him of the leader's sacred rule: never taint the clan's pure flames with black magic. Mad Dog doesn't even flinch. We'll see whose power is real when our steel collides. He spits back, promising a world of pain. The old master summons his own blaze, swearing the air will pay for his insolence. In the next heartbeat, their powers smash together in a furious explosion, and a colossal pillar of fire rips through the entire dojo. The master can only scream in utter disbelief as he watches his legendary fire dragon get ripped to shreds by the kid's corrupted, unholy magic. Without a shred of pity, the blackened blade slices through the instructor's ultimate spell in one smooth, devastating arc. Standing over his defeated foe, Mad Dog throws the insult right back in his face, calling the old man's signature technique primitive junk. Away from the chaos, our MC cuts to the chase. So, what's the next move? The senior confirms. He'll be promoted to an official instructor any day now. But the boy's eyes are on a much bigger prize. How do we make you the sect leader? He learns there are 2 brutal conditions, the spearman explains. He has to reach the legendary 8th ring level and secure the approval of most of the local masters. The blacksmith raises an eyebrow, skeptical about his popularity, but the fighter just grins. If they won't say yes, I'll beat it out of them. Our MC nods, completely unfazed. It won't take long. Consider today's beatdown all the proof you need that this plan is foolproof. All business now, the kid reminds the spearman to prepare his payment for services rendered. Showing total deference, the senior promises any amount of money or resources the sect can provide. I have one more request, the MC adds, his sudden demand catching the fighter off guard. With its sheer urgency, the blacksmith taps the spear in his hands, explaining that the weapon worked, sure, but it was basically just a prototype he threw together for a school project. Mad Dog's eyes widen, his mind buzzing with potential. He can only imagine the god-tier destruction a spear forged with proper time and materials could unleash. Filled with a sudden surge of adrenaline, the senior shoves the weapon in his face, demanding a better one. The boy just sighs. Dude, would you put that thing away, you psycho? Just before he runs someone through, a system alert suddenly chimes, confirming his destiny connection with the swordsman has officially skyrocketed to level 2. The blue interface now frames their bond as a business partnership, where trading favors creates priceless destiny stones. We slam cut to the auction, where the colossal hall is already jam-packed, with the city's wealthiest elites and powerful figures. On stage, a slick announcer gets the crowd roaring and launches the showcase from the forging department. Seated among the masses, our hero remarks on the insane turnout, and his friend beside him chalks it up to the freshman's viral reputation. Glancing at the judges, our boy knows the vice principal can't blatantly tank his score with so many influential people watching. Up in a VIP suite, the man in the suit tracks every detail. As the host unveils a new quality control test for the iron swords, he brandishes a shimmering fabric, explaining that the material is woven from the hide of an S-rank beast, capable of deflecting unbelievable force. As a demonstration, a generic sword is swung down onto the cloth, but the blade shatters against it in a shower of sparks. It's an auction rule. This enchanted cloth is designed to instantly wreck any weapon that prioritizes sharpness over durability. Starting the main event, the master of ceremonies summons the first blade, forged by a nobody student. Locked on the stage, an upperclassman in the crowd murmurs that this whole verification process feels sus, and our guy asks his companion if she understands the point of this whole charade. Dropping some knowledge, the girl in the kimono reveals that the white tiger's fur actually reflects a blade's own cutting power back onto itself, obliterating its structural integrity. A wave of panic hits his friend, who points out that the freshman's light greatsword is screwed, since weapons built for slicing are notoriously fragile. A smirk spreads across our hero's face. He knows this is a setup, orchestrated by the vice principal to publicly shame both him and Master Kim. But brimming with confidence, the blacksmith declares that plan will only work if his craftsmanship is garbage. As the gavel falls on another sale, the auctioneer finally reveals the main event of the evening, calling for the ultimate trial of the now famous white light greatsword. With seemingly zero effort, the hero's immense blade phases through the barrier in a single, spectral motion, leaving the entire arena